It's 10:06. Good morning. The time is 10:06, and I'm officially calling the hearing to order. We will start with introductions before going over the order of today's hearing. The order that we will introduce ourselves is as follows. I'll start with me. I'm Dr. Sheila Lahode, and I'm the hearing officer. And I'm just going to go around and just kind of no specific order, but I'll just start with what's on my screen, and maybe starting with Woody.
Hi, my name is Medrick Woods. I'll be the facilitator for the virtual meeting.
And Leroy Calderon.
I'm Leroy Calderon. I'm an attorney with the UT System Office of General Counsel, and I will be advising Dr. Lahode for this hearing.
Melissa Peskin.
Hi, I'm Dr. Peskin, Melissa Peskin at the UT Health Houston School of Public Health, and I'm a professor here and the assistant dean of students and one of the witnesses.
Andrew Springer.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Springer. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Health Promotion Behavioral Sciences. I also serve as the Health Promotion Behavioral Sciences doctoral exam preliminary exam coordinator since July 2004.
Christina Markham.
Good morning, everyone. Chris Markham. I'm professor and department chair for health promotion and behavioral sciences here at the UT Health Houston School of Public Health.
Shannon Bishop.
Hello, I'm Shannon Bishop. I'm a student support program manager here at the UT Health Houston School of Public Health.
Clayton Ernest.
Hello, how you doing? My name is Ernest Clayton, and I am here for my appeal to try to get some reduction into this dismissal.
Susan Emery.
Yes, I'm Susan Emery, the Senior Associate Dean here at the School of Public Health, and I am will be asking questions on the UT Health Houston SPH side.
And Sarah Donahue.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Sarah Donahue, Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs and Student Services at UT Health School of Public Health.
All right. And before we begin, I'd like to set some expectations about how the virtual hearing will be conducted. The expectation is that you will remain muted unless you're answering a question or have been identified by me to ask a question. Once you have been identified by me, you may ask your question. Please do not speak over each other. And if too many people are speaking at the same time, we will need to mute the entire hearing and then start back up. If a break needs to be called to either discuss something more in length with your advisor or to simply take a break, please do so by raising your hand and asking. In the event we experience technical difficulties, the hearing and recording will be paused until a connection is reestablished. And if you're not aware, the servers have been down, so this may be an issue today. And it may be an issue if you're trying to pull any of the files in your emails today as well. I would like to ask that this hearing now be locked. Any witnesses not already in the waiting room need to contact the party they've been communicating with in order to be allowed in the waiting room. And I will stop and ask, are we expecting any other witnesses? Nope. Okay. I am now going to inform you of your rights.
I'm sorry, Dr. Lahode. I think at this time we can put the witnesses back in the waiting room. And we'll only keep Mr. Clayton and Dr. Emery.
Is the other person, Melissa, going to the waiting room?
Yeah, would you like us to log out and log back in, or are you going to put us?
I'm going to put the witnesses into the waiting room. Just need
Yes,
to-
Melissa is, does go in the, she is a witness, goes in the waiting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other witnesses that that we're going into the waiting room?
Everybody except
Um,
Dr. Emery and Mr. Clayton.
Shannon Bishop is helping facilitate on my end. So, yeah, she should stay.
Okay. Okay. So, like,
Oh, I think you put Mr. Clayton in the waiting room.
dude. Okay, gonna bring Clayton back.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. Witnesses are in the waiting room and the meeting is locked.
I believe I need to be moved to the waiting room, and so does Dr. Springer.
Yes.
Okay. So-
Okay, I think we can proceed now. Okay, Ernest, I am now going to inform you of your rights regarding this hearing. You have the right to a private hearing, to appear in person and have an advisor at the hearing, to challenge the hearing officer assigned to hear the charges, to know the identity of each witness who will testify against you, to have a list of the documentary evidence that will be offered against you, to present testimony of witnesses, present documentary and other advice to argue on your own behalf. You also have the right to question each witness that testifies against you and to appeal according to the university guidelines. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, seeing that I don't see any questions, I would like to remind everyone present that this is not a formal legal proceeding and I have wide latitude in conducting the hearing under established university rules. I, as the hearing officer, retain the authority to dismiss parties who disrupt the proceedings, including but not limited to speaking during a time allotted for another party, voicing obscenities during the hearing, or an advisor addressing witnesses or the hearing officer. After warnings have been given, we reserve the right to remove you from the hearing. Okay, and as there are no advisors present, we can move on. If there are still no questions, then we will proceed with the hearing. The order of the hearing will go as follows. Opening statements. We'll start with the university, then the student, Mr. Clayton. Each party will have up to 10 minutes to make their opening statement. The university will present its case and witnesses first because it has the burden of proof. Mr. Clayton will have the opportunity to question those witnesses. Once the university completes its presentation, Mr. Clayton will present his case and witnesses. The university will have the opportunity to question those witnesses. I will have the opportunity to question any witness presented by either party. I will have the opportunity to sanction recommendations, starting with the university's recommendation. Then Mr. Clayton will give a rebuttal and or his recommended sanctions. Should I find Mr. Clayton responsible for violating university policy? Sorry, that one actually didn't flow very well, and hopefully that made sense to you. Did it make sense to you, Ernest? Closing statements. Each party will have 10 minutes to make closing statements, starting with the university, then the student. If needed, the university may have a final rebuttal of 5 minutes. If there are no questions about the orders or procedures, then we will begin with opening statements. All right. On the university's behalf, are you ready to proceed?
Yes. Okay. In this hearing, I will show that Mr. Clayton violated UT Health's Houston Handbook of Operating Procedures 186 by committing academic dishonesty. Specifically, on Mr. Clayton's preliminary exam submitted on July 30th, 2025, he cheated by falsifying articles and references. He engaged in plagiarism by appropriating material attributed to another source without indicating the original source, and he misrepresented facts for his academic advantage. I will also show that Mr. Clayton has a pattern of not taking responsibility for his actions and in fact has lied to the school officials when asked about his behavior. That's all. Thanks.
Sorry, Mr. Clayton?
Yes, so good morning, and thank you for allowing me to be heard. I want to begin by stating clearly that I take responsibility for citation and reference errors identified in the preliminary exam submissions. Those errors occurred, and I do not dispute what has happened with the uh, article critique. However, I did not intentionally fabricate sources, falsify evidence, or attempt to deceive the faculty of this institution. The citation issues stem from the reliance of an evidence-based inventory system that I have used for several years since being a student in the coursework and research. In preparation for the preliminary exam, I used that system as a reference to guide and ensure that each analytic statement had a corresponding citation. While the approach had been effective for me in prior academic coursework, it was insufficiently refined and verified for a high-stakes examination. That failure in organization and verification directly contributed to the errors that are now under review. At the time of the exam and the subsequent review period, I was also experiencing significant mental health challenges, including anxiety, withdrawal symptoms related to medication adherence. I am not presenting these as excuses, but as context that affected my cognitive clarity, organization, and ability to cross-verify materials under pressure. Once the concerns were raised, I reviewed my materials, attempted to reconcile the discrepancies, and acknowledged that I had failed that portion of the exam. I was prepared to accept the academic consequences associated with the failure. What I was not aware of at the time was that the additional proportions of my work were being independently reviewed beyond the original identified issue. Without my knowledge or opportunity to respond presumptively. I have completed all required coursework for this program and have no incentive, academic or otherwise, to knowingly engage in misconduct at this stage of my academic career. My intent was always to be my intent has always been to complete this program with integrity. My appeal today is not to deny errors, but to request a fair, policy-aligned, and proportionate academic response, one that distinguishes between citation and organizational errors and intentional academic misconduct, and one that allows for remediation consistent with university policy. I'm also asking that a dismissal be reversed to something more comprehensive, to where I can take a more ethical approach to staying within the program. Thank you.
Okay, the university may call its first witness.
Okay, the first witness is Andrew Springer. Okay. Do I go forward? Yes. Okay. Dr. Springer, can you describe your role on the preliminary exam?
Sure. So as mentioned, I took over the preliminary exam coordinator role in summer 2024. And my overarching role is to facilitate the administration of the preliminary exam with students and faculty. I will note that the exam is de-identified, anonymized for students. I work in collaboration with Jennifer Roberts, who's one of our administrators with the Health Promotion Behavioral Sciences Department. She assists in also the facilitation of the exam. I do not know what students are being assigned to what faculty other than their de-identified number. So my overall role, right, is to coordinate the exam, to administer it, to receive the exam, and then to send it out to reviewers to conduct the review, and then to compile the scores, and then to send back out the scores to the students.
Great, thank you. And so my next questions will have to do with Exhibit 1, which is the preliminary exam instructions. Ms. Bishop, can you share that exhibit for us?
Can you see my screen?
We can see you. We can't see your screen.
Okay. How about now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, Dr. Springer, can you confirm that these are the instructions for the exam? Can you make that a little bit bigger if you can?
Yes.
Or maybe just make it to a full page.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yes, that'll
Sorry.
be better.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Springer?
Yes, I can confirm those are the instructions.
And this exam, can you explain the take-home nature of the exam?
Sure. Yeah. So our Health Promotion Behavioral Sciences Department for our PhD and DRPH students have a 7-day take-home exam that comprises 3 sections in which students will respond to question prompts related to a section on theory, a section on research and design, and a section on analysis. Yeah, and as you can see from the instructions, it's independent work. Students are allowed to consult their previous work. They're allowed to do other literature searches during the exam, but the exam is completely independent and yes, and based on the student's own work.
Okay. And are there any specific instructions about using AI or software on the
Yes,
exam?
there are. And if you go scroll down, we highlighted specifically there in blue as well. So here's the key instructions, right, that students cannot solicit help from others, and additionally are not permitted to use ChatGPT or other AI software. They are allowed to use Grammarly. Now, Grammarly includes a write with generative AI feature, so we call that out to clarify that they cannot use that feature. In addition, Dr. Emery, students in their email instructions in which these instructions were sent to students, we also emphasized with the same language that they cannot use ChatGPT. So this other instruction was also included when the exams were distributed to students.
Okay, thank you. And Was Mr. Clayton required to take this exam on this administration?
Um, well, that's a good question. Students are required, as part of our doctoral program, to take a preliminary exam. The purpose of the exam, right, is to indicate to the department whether the students can demonstrate basic sufficient competency. So can they understand, synthesize, and apply fundamental concepts and skills that are required to proceed in the doctoral program? I do not have with me, in terms of Mr. Clayton's trajectory, if this was the ultimate exam he had to take. He completed the requirements to be able to take the exam. I just don't
Okay.
have with me whether this was, because students are on a timeline, but right, I don't have that specific information if he had to take this administration.
If Mr. Clayton was having some health problems or challenges prior to the exam, could he have postponed taking the exam?
My understanding is yes, he would have been able to postpone. And in fact, we have other recent cases where that's the case, where we've allowed students to postpone the exam.
Okay. And what happens if a student is experiencing health problems or mental health challenges during the exam?
Well, good questions. If I'm allowed to speak, I understand. May I mention Mr. Clayton's accommodation? Or, yeah.
Yes. Did he have
Yeah.
yes, is he have an accommodation?
Yes. So Mr. Clayton did have an ADA accommodation, which allowed him to have an additional week to be able to complete the course, to be able to complete the exam. So yes, so he had an accommodation for the exam. In terms of specific mental health protocol, that is, I am not aware of what our specific mental
Okay.
health protocol is. Yeah.
Can you, if you can see it on the exam, right? The second paragraph to what we're looking at, it says, you may, it
Yeah.
starts with you may. Can you read
Okay,
that?
sure.
for
You
us,
may
please?
also contact Dr. Springer if you have any pressing questions as you're taking the exam. If an emergency occurs that will prevent you from completing the exam by the due date, please contact Dr. Springer immediately. Yeah. I should mention, thank you for asking this, because we have had students who've had an emergency that's come up in the past where they have contacted us, where we've allowed them to take the exam at a later date.
Thank you. And you did mention that Mr. Clayton had ADA accommodations that you were
Yes.
notified. And what were the accommodations?
That he would be allowed an additional week to be able to complete the exam.
Okay. And did Mr. Clayton use his full accommodation for the exam?
My understanding and recollection is that he, I believe, turned in the exam one day after the due date. So he did not take the full advantage of that full week.
So he used one day of the 7-day period
Correct.
that he could have
Mhm.
used. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. And can you explain how the preliminary exam is graded?
Sure. Yes. So once we receive the exam, it is sent out to two health promotion behavioral sciences faculty members. And we have two reviewers per section, and these are different reviewers for different sections. They have a grading rubric, which also the student is provided as well. And they present a score, which is a score between 0 and 100. And students need to get a score of 80 or above to be able to pass a specific section. We have aligned our grading process with other departments. Students have two opportunities to pass the exam. So if they don't pass on the first and let me back up. They need to pass all 3 sections in order to pass the overall exam. So if they get a fail in one of the sections, they fail the exam. So if they do fail on the first chance, they're allowed another opportunity to retake the exam. And with that, they would go through a remediation plan, working with their advisor to identify other areas that they can further build their competency before retaking the exam.
Okay, thank you. And so there's each student, my understanding, if you could correct me, is that each student is given a unique identifier so that
Yes,
nobody knows the person, correct?
exactly. Yeah.
And what was Mr. Clayton's unique identifier?
Student 7.
Student 7. Okay. And specifically, what was the initial problem that the grader noted and contacted you
Sure.
about?
Yes. So as part of our theory section for the exam, our theory option 1, students are asked to select an article. Thank you for scrolling down. If you keep going down a bit, yeah. So question D, select a published article that you used your selected theory to understand your health behavior. Justify the selection of the published article and provide a full selection. And basically, this task, I won't read the whole section, but they are required to critique the article. So critique the application, and in this section, we're specifically interested in theory. So question E is critique the author's application of the theory in the study. Consider how the theory was operationalized and measured. If an intervention study, consider how the theory guided the development of the intervention. For each critique, provide recommendations for improving the application of the theory in this article based on your understanding of the literature. So I was first contacted by one of the reviewers, and then I was contacted by the second reviewer. So indicating that they could not find the article for the that was included in the preliminary exam for this part of the exam. As such, given the pressing nature of reviewing the exam, I reached out to Mr. Clayton to request that he provide the PDF of the article and the citation of the article, that we couldn't find the article which was critiqued.
Okay, thank you. And so what I'm hearing you say is that for this portion of the exam, the student identifies an article and they're supposed to critique all aspects of the article, the research questions, study design, analytic methods as shown here in the instructions. And then they also have to talk about how the application of theory. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first part that it's more descriptive. They're describing the question, study design, measures, here demonstrating, their basic understanding of being able to review and identify key elements of a study. And then the critique is more specific to the theory, the application of the theory.
And on the exam, Mr. Clayton referred to what article he had chosen?
Yes, right.
Okay.
So he had referred right to this, I believe, Shyambola et al. 2018. Unfortunately, we could not find the exact match to the reference that was provided, the citation of Shyambola article,
Okay.
correct.
So he critiqued he mentioned he critiqued this article.
Yeah.
But nobody could identify
Correct.
The location or where this article was.
Yes.
And you were notified by the graders
Right.
about this?
Yeah.
And what did you do?
Right. So then I reached out to Mr. Clayton to request the article. And if you like, I can go through the communication. Or you tell me. Yeah.
One second,
Yeah,
Shannon, do
sure.
we have this as an exhibit?
We do.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and put that up?
Yeah. Okay. Can you see?
Yes. Okay, so yes, go ahead.
Sure. So yeah, so I was contacted by the graders on Wednesday the 30th. I contacted Mr. Clayton on that day. He responded on Thursday the 31st, indicating that he had mistakenly cited an article that was incorrect. He then indicated he meant to have sent the Augusta et al. 2025 article. As such, I followed up to indicate that the article that was sent by Clayton was not the same article that matches what was in the exam. So I asked him again if he could resend the article that he used for the exam. He sent me the Augusta article again. So I responded to ask him to, again, please send me the citation of the article he critiqued for the exam and attach the PDF of the article. He indicated that he was then sending a revised exam. I told him at that time I cannot accept a revised exam and requested again that he send me the article that he used for the exam. His response, right, he indicated that he had a mismatch between the article that he critiqued in the exam, and he stated, to be clear, my exam was written entirely based on the Augusta et al. Article, which I have now submitted. I am not requesting a regrade. I just want to ensure the correct articles on file. As such, I responded to thank Clayton for sending the article and to indicate that I would send both articles to the reviewers, as unfortunately the Augusta article did not match the article that he had. At 5:49, Mr. Clayton responded to state his confusion with mixing up the two articles, and he stated, I'm not requesting a regrade or special consideration, only to acknowledge my confusion, confirmed that the submitted critique was indeed based on Shyambola et al. 2018. Let's see, as such, I thanked, let me find my notes. Right, I thanked, oh, sorry, I have my notes here. So I thanked Mr. Clayton for the clarification. Let's see. Right. Okay, sorry, I'm losing my, okay, so indicated there's a mismatch. Indicated that I would send both articles to the reviewers. I responded to thank Mr. Clayton for further clarification, in which he had said his critique was entirely based on Shyambola. Yeah, so Dr. Emery, should I stop there or should I continue?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
let me just make sure I have this right. So first, Mr. Clayton said that that he inadvertently cited the wrong article and he sent you the Augusta article. Does that seem
correct?
Right. And then after he reverted back, you questioned it again. And then he said, no, it's based on the original Shyambola article. Is that correct?
That's how the conversation ended. Yes, that no, yeah. And as I mentioned, his exact words, I'm not requesting a regrade or special consideration, only to acknowledge my confusion and confirm that the submitted critique was indeed based on Shyambola et al. 2018.
Okay. And did he provide the Shyambola 2018 article?
I don't recall that was sent to us.
Did the Shine 2018 article exist?
My recollection is that we searched, the reviewer searched for that. There is indeed a Shine who has done health promotion research. Unfortunately, there's no article we could find that matched, and thus was my interest to get clarity in what the specific citation was and what the specific Shine article was that was used.
Okay.
And so we did not receive anything that matched what was written in the exam.
Okay, so articles or PDFs were sent that matched what was sent in the exam.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And so back to the overall preliminary exam, you had mentioned that there were multiple sections. How many sections in the exam?
Yeah, so there's 3 sections: a theory, a research and design section, and an analysis section.
Okay. Was there any indication that Mr. Clayton had confusion, disorganization, or major problems in completing the other 2 parts of the exam?
There was nothing else mentioned about the other sections of the exam.
Okay.
And I will note that we did not hear from reviewers either about the other sections.
Okay. Okay. And those sections of the exam were graded, right? Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And were his scores in line with what a student typically makes on the first attempt of the exam?
He passed both of those sections. I don't have this score in front of me, but he passed
Okay.
those sections.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clayton. That's all I have.
Okay, and Mr. Clayton, do you have any questions for this witness? I'm sorry, if you could unmute yourself and start again.
I'm sorry. Yes, I do have some questions for Dr. Springer. So first off, thank you, Dr. Springer, for being here. So I just want to fully address with my rebuttal to the article issue. And so I want to address that the article issue directly and clearly. So the problem was not that I invented data or knowingly fabricated a source. The problem was a failure in citation of verification of source alignment. I prepared beforehand in my exhibit. Am I to show my own exhibits? So am I to show my own exhibits and things to present?
Mr. Calderon, can he present his exhibits during a questioning, or is it in the second part?
He should be using this time to question the witness.
Okay. Okay. So Dr. Springer, so I prepared for the preliminary exam using my EBI inventory table that was developed throughout my coursework. Are you aware that I have been using an EBI table in private conversations that we've had regarding my academic standing?
I'm not aware of an EBI table.
Okay.
And sorry, could you describe what an EBI table is?
So an evidence-based intervention table is a table that was taught in theory. It's allowing us to actually put together different references to better support our academic writing that we can always refer to in case if we needed to rely on it for citation purposes. So after my theory course, I kind of sort of refined it to meet the need of my understanding and my learning. And so I created themes associated with different academic writing.
Okay, thank
you. So
you.
that's what I use. Mm-hmm. And so that system contained working references and thematic placeholders that pointed me towards literature I had previously read during the exam. I relied on systems while working on device.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop you, Mr. Clayton. If you could direct questions to Mr. Springer, and then you'll be able to present your entire case afterwards.
Okay, and so Dr. Springer, for the exam for the article Cheyenne Bola, initially, when you sent me a response to clarify about the articles. Did I respond quickly?
You responded the next day, yes.
Yes. And then on that same day, when we were going back and forth with conversation, was I actually responding in real time?
Yes, you were.
Okay. Thank you. And so my thing is, in that time that I also discussed with you that that I was under mental distress.
Yes, I believe, well, I believe you mentioned yes, due to your anxiety that and fear of making a critical error. I'm reading from your email that you had mixed up the articles.
Okay. And so, and with that, I want to acknowledge that I sent you the Augusta article because ultimately that's the article that was actually on cross across my devices. But when I stated that I wrote from the Cheyenne Bola, that was in regards to the citation, and then ultimately I didn't clearly state that. So I can see how that can be misconstrued about me writing from that article. But I just wanted to make note that did I also reach out to you for support in being a witness within this structure of this hearing?
Yes, you did reach out after these communications took place. I will share for full disclosure, I've served as Mr. Clayton's professor, as well as supported Mr. Clayton with an independent study. I responded to indicate that in my current role, I cannot have further communication while this issue is being investigated.
Okay. And so within the context, and if you've worked with me academically, would you say that this is this issue that's corresponding with this article critique, is it aligned with previous work that I've done?
I'm not quite understanding the question. If are you asking if I've seen other issues with your citations?
Like,
In
so
the
take for instance,
past?
like you
Mhm.
were my professor in other
Mhm.
courses. So with my writing, have you ever come across an incident to where you had to reprimand me about citation errors or um, alleged plagiarism?
No, not that I can recall.
Okay, so would you acknowledge that this was something new to your understanding and not aligned with the behavior that I've exuded throughout the course of being a student?
I have not had other experience with this issue of miscitation or mixing up articles or including other citations that correct. That may not exist.
Okay. And also, have in our conversation, because I based upon looking at some emails, and I know I can't refer to those right now, but have I also talked to you about issues that I've had with not being able to talk to faculty, such as my advisor, and having to reach out for outsourcing to get some support?
I do recall on one of your more recent communications that you indicated so.
Yes, and
Yes.
so when Dr. Emery was stating that I could have reached out to you during that time, based upon the uh, area in which you were serving as the preliminary oversight, that I felt that I couldn't reach out to you in that extent to kind of sort of gain guidance because I was underneath the assumption that you would have I wouldn't be able to get the actual support that I needed. But that is all the question that I have for you. I just wanted to kind of clarify based upon the characterization that's been based upon me regarding that exam. The other things I would have will be presented as evidence. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for the university, do you have any follow-up questions?
No.
And Mr. Clayton, do you have any follow-up questions?
Yes. Well, no, not for Dr. Springer. No, I don't.
Okay. All right. And if there are no final questions, the witness may be excused.
Thank you. So should I, sorry, be in the waiting room or should I exit the meeting?
I believe you can exit the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the university, who is the next witness, please?
Dr. Chris Markham. Okay. Dr. Markham, thank you for joining. Can you describe your role at the School of Public Health?
Sure, I'm a professor and department chair for health promotion and behavioral sciences here at the School of Public Health.
Okay. And so what was your role specifically in the preliminary exam?
So in the preliminary exam for this summer, I was a grader. So just as any of our faculty, we grade the preliminary exams. Those are take-home exams, 1 week for the student to respond to 3 sections: theory, research design, and data analysis. And so this summer, I was one of the theory section reviewers.
Okay. And how long have you been grading the exam?
I've been grading the theory section pretty much twice a year since 2012, when we first started doing this version of the preliminary exams.
Okay. And can you describe what happened when you first noted a problem with student 7, which was then later identified as Ernest Clayton?
Sure, yes. So student 7, and we are all blinded. We don't know who the students are. So this was student 7 to me. I've been assigned 4 theory exams to review, and I was reviewing student 7's response to the theory option 1. And part of that exam is a article critique. So students they've been given a health topic at the beginning of the week for their exam, a health topic in a population. And as part of the theory section, they have to identify a published article that uses the theory that they've also chosen to talk about and write about in their exam. A published article that uses that theory to address the health topic in the population that they were given for their exam. So I was reviewing the written critique. It was a very detailed critique of an article that the student had identified, and they provide you with the citation for the article. So when I tried to find the PDF, the article, the citation that the student had given, I always do that to validate the critique that I'm reading actually matches the article that they're talking about. I couldn't find that article. So the citation given, I looked at the DOI number, and it led to a different article on a completely different topic. I tried to find that citation in the journal. I used both the TMC library to identify that article by journal, volume, issue. I went to the journal website, but I couldn't find this particular citation that the student had given. So I thought, okay, maybe it's just a mistake. Maybe this is just the wrong citation. So I emailed Dr. Springer, who was the preliminary exam coordinator, and I asked him, could you ask student 7 to send me the PDF for the article that they're critiquing? All I needed to see was the PDF to be able to validate the critique of the article they'd written. A day or so later, Dr. Springer returned 2 PDFs from the student and said that these were the 2 PDFs that the student had used for the critique. But unfortunately, neither of those PDFs matched the written critique. So the critique that the student had written in detail, it was a survey article, like a cross-sectional survey study design article, 147 African-American men. It was about health belief model, looking at medication adherence for depression. And it was the critique in the exam was very well written. It was very detailed. It talked about the measures, the sampling, the statistical analysis, the results from the article. But the 2 PDFs that the student had sent, neither of them matched that written critique. One was a narrative review published articles talking about how the health belief model constructs might be applied to this particular health topic. The other article that the student had sent, the other PDF, was a qualitative study, 40 African-American men talking about barriers to medication adherence, but neither of those two articles matched the detailed written critique that was in the exam that had been submitted. So that was my first major concern. Also, while I was waiting for the PDFs, I spot checked for every student's exam that I review. I spot checked the citations in the submitted exam just to make sure that they all, seem in order. And that was when I also ran into challenges, because quite a few of the citations that were in the written narrative from the student, either I couldn't find the DOI number, it didn't exist, or it led to a different article. There were other citations that, again, I tried to find that particular citation in the reference list. I tried to find it in the journal volume issue, either using the TMC library search, library base, or going to the actual journal website, trying to find that volume issue article, and I couldn't find some of those. I couldn't find. And then third, there were some citations within the narrative, like, Smith and Jones 2020, that didn't appear in the citation list. So there were just a number in all. And then I didn't just look in the theory section. I was curious, did this also occur in the research design and the analysis sections, which I typically don't grade, typically don't look at. But when I did sort of a preliminary look through the citations in those sections, I also noticed that there were some inconsistencies. So overall, out of about 50 references that I checked, over 22 of them, I found some kind of issue, some kind of challenge, that I couldn't find the DOI number, or the citation didn't match what I was finding in the literature. So all of that led me to and the part of this also, so we have 2 faculty that grade each section of the preliminary exam. So my fellow reviewer, we're all blinded, we don't know who the student is, but they also had run into the same issue. They couldn't find the original citation for the critique, and they'd also run into challenges with finding other articles that were cited in the study. So when he and I met to sort of compare our review of the preliminary exam, we both agreed that there was just something not on, that there were issues and challenges with this particular exam.
Is that typical that the 2 graders meet to talk about the exam?
Yes, yeah, we always do that. So the whole purpose is to try and be, as thorough with our review for any of the students, for any of the sections. So yes, the 2 reviewers meet and we compare sort of how we score the different sections of the exam. And we both had issues when we got to the written critique, the article critique in this theory section, that we both had very similar challenges in being able to review this particular student's work.
Okay. And have you seen this previously, the number of citations?
I haven't. And in the past, we haven't had, issues with AI. I always spot check references just to make sure that they seem legit. I have run into problems where maybe the citation for the critique didn't match, but then the student was able to give me the PDF article. There was no problem. If someone's writing a critique from a published article, you would expect them to have the PDF for that article either in hard copy form and they've written all over it, or in electronic format, because the level of detail that was in the student's exam was very, very detailed to a specific article. And maybe that article exists, but we never were able to be given the PDF for that particular article. So that I haven't encountered in previous exams.
Okay. And so the student did provide some other articles. And as you said, you tried to match the critique?
Yeah, that is correct. We were given 2 PDFs. And the student had told, I wasn't involved with this communication. This was by Dr. Springer. He sent us 2 PDFs and I was happy. I thought, great, this is just what I need. One of these is going to work. But then no, I'm just, unfortunately, the detail, the studies are completely different. The 2 articles that were submitted are completely different in terms of the methodology, in terms of the details. They don't in any way match the article that was written in the submitted exam.
And so the Shine Bola 2018 article, the one that, were you ever able to find that article?
No, I still haven't been able to find that as a published article.
Okay. And then why did you notify, tell us, why did you notify the assistant dean of students?
I actually contacted, Andrew Springer and I decided that this like a violation, a potential violation of academic integrity. So that was when we brought it to Dr. Peskin's attention to get further guidance. We felt that this was sort of out of the department's purview, that we needed to get further guidance from the school as a whole on how best to go forward with this matter.
Yeah, and in training a student, so the preliminary exam is a test of a student's ability. Tell me, how serious is it to find an exam that has citations that do not exist, and I presumably there's statements in the exam where it's cited that there was no citation. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So how serious is this in training a student to be a scientist?
Yeah, I would say it's serious. The preliminary exams are designed to show that the students have sort of foundational understanding of the application of theory, of research design, data analysis, and strong scientific writing. So whenever there are issues with citations, sure, maybe someone had trouble using their reference manager or whatever, but this was different. This was beyond that. I can understand if there were discrepancies between citations in the text and maybe they weren't all in the reference list. This is an exam over 1 week. It's a high pressure exam, but this was different. This was citations that were embedded in the narrative of the exam, and then they just don't appear to exist. And we've taught with students in the last year or so, as AI has become more apparent, we do put in our guidance for preliminary exams that students shouldn't be using AI to help them write their exams. In most of our classes, we have pretty strong guidelines about how, if you are going to use AI, how to use it responsibly, to make sure that you check citations, because AI can produce hallucinations. It can write beautiful narratives, but the citations may not actually exist. So to have a sense that this may be in the preliminary exam, I would say that is serious, very serious, because one doesn't know how the student may use AI in other ways. So, and the exam is a take-home exam. It is on the honor system. We ask students not to work with others. They have, it's open book. They can use the web. They can use any references, but they not being able to identify these citations seems a pretty major oversight and a pretty challenging issue.
You mentioned the use of AI several times. And so tell me why you mentioned the use of AI.
I would mention that because that was the reviewer, second reviewer and I, when we were reviewing the exam, that was our thought. We were trying to figure out how this particular exam could be the way that it was. And so in our grading rubric, we put that either, but best case scenario, this was just poor management of citations and the student ran out of time, or worst case scenario, this could be AI, because we've seen in other cases, you can generate narrative within AI and it will write, you can ask it questions and it will produce text for you, and it will incorporate information that's out there. It will include scientific information and citations, but it also can be known to provide hallucinations, to provide citations that do not exist. And when we were reviewing this particular student's exam, not only the theory section, which was where we were most focused, but then also, as I said, the research design and the data analysis section, it just seemed that time and time again, almost every other citation, there was some issue with being able to actually identify and find that article. And that, from my experience, I wouldn't expect that to happen if it was just poor management of citations, that students would put the wrong citation, because it would lead to something. But in this case, it just wasn't leading to, you couldn't find an article that matched the citation that was listed.
Mm-hmm. And students are taught in health promotion to sometimes develop an evidence-based table with their citations. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes. So we don't require that for the exam, but I would encourage, yes, if a student is preparing for the exam. So the students, they choose 4 different topics for their preliminary exam. And then at the beginning of the week, they're given one topic to actually write on. So yes, we would expect in preparation for the exam that a student would be collecting articles and hopefully creating an evidence table to help them pull everything together for the 4 topics that they've been given. So I would expect students to have on hand all the articles related to the particular topic that they might actually be given. So that I would absolutely expect. And sometimes students have created citation lists, so it's just easy to cut and paste and put them into their exam. That all I would absolutely expect. But this was different. This wasn't just a misplaced citation. If you had done that, then those citations would still tie to a particular DOI number, and you would be able to go find to TMC library or to the journal, and you'd be able to identify that particular article. For this, I mean, I stopped. I didn't look at every single citation within student 7's exam, but when I stopped, 22 of the citations out of 50 something, there was some kind of issue that it didn't link to an article that I could physically find and see and read and say, yeah, this is the article by Smith and Jones 2020.
So so what I heard you say is that it's not simply mixing up the articles from the evidence-based table, because the evidence-based table should be linked to actual PDFs and articles.
Yeah, absolutely. And we would say, and we'd tell students, don't ever cite an article if you haven't actually read it. If you don't have the PDF and the physical copy of that article, don't cite it, because you don't know what's in it. If somebody else has cited it and extracted something from it somewhere, you always go to the original article to make sure that you've read that study and you know what the authors were saying, and you know how, in this case, they use this theory to apply it to a particular health topic. You should never cite or write about an article that you haven't specifically read and seen that article.
Okay. And putting on your department chair hat, have you been aware of other issues and problems that this student has had come up?
I have. In previous studies and previous classes, there have been questions with integrity in classes. So yes, I am aware of some previous cases.
Okay. Thank you. I'm done questioning.
Thank you.
And Mr. Clayton, do you have any questions for this witness?
I do. Hello, Dr. Markham.
Hey, Clayton.
So, Dr. Markham, did you personally run my preliminary exam through an AI detection software?
No, I did not.
Okay, because I want to just acknowledge that HOOP policy 186 requires evidence and not assumption. And so a lot of times within this, you stated that you're thinking that based upon some of the things, like you're assuming that maybe it was AI. And so I just want to anchor that policy 186 says that it has to be based upon evidence and not assumption or a presumptive. Also, your testimony today is about exam instructions prohibiting AI use, not about evidence that I actually use AI. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so to be clear, you did not make a determination that I used any AI like ChatGPT or any generative AI tools, correct? Just an assumption.
That is correct. And that was written in the grading rubric we clearly put in our review comments that there was a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. We did not specifically say that this was what it was.
Mm-hmm. So do you believe that AI, the talk of AI, if it's not based upon evidence, should be used against me in this following procedure?
I think it's highly questionable. I've tried a million times to figure out how the exam that I reviewed and graded, how it came to be the way that it was. And that I have a lot of unanswered questions. And it's just something that I have not seen any time before in 13 plus years of grading this theory section of the preliminary exam. I have not run into this quantity and type of issues with citations in a student's written exam.
Okay, so you mentioned about the evidence-based intervention table and how students can actually use it to keep track of different data. So if a student was to adapt this table to work throughout their career, academic career, would you agree that they can use this kind of to build a theme as they're writing, especially if they're knowledgeable on their writing topic?
Absolutely, and I would encourage them to do it. But having said that, that table, yes, it would be a living document. You would be, if you're interested in a particular topic area, you would keep an evidence table and you'd be adding to it, but you would always make sure that it linked to the PDFs for the actual article, not just your summary, your abstracted, evidence from the article. You would want to make sure that you or whoever is writing this table, not you, but the person with the table, can go back and actually access that particular articles. You always want to go back and see what did the authors originally say, or what was the date, or you have some other question where you didn't extract. So that evidence table, yes, would be a living document, and you would be adding to it across the course of your career if it's a topic that you're interested in. But it would always tie back to a PDF, where you would have in separate folders, you would have the PDFs for those actual articles, not just your abstracted summary of the article.
And so would you agree that throughout time, if I started in 2021 and it's 2025, that some of those articles or some of those citations that I've used could have been changed along the way if I'm adding?
No, because those articles were published articles. So the articles would not change. You would only be building, you would be adding more articles and more citations to that evidence table. But an article that you abstracted and put into the evidence table in 2021 would still be the same article, and the PDF would still be the same article. So nothing would change. No.
Let me revise my question. So what I'm asking is, so as you stated, like the article doesn't change, but what I'm saying, if a student is adding to it throughout their academic career and they're building it for their own purposes, this isn't a document that goes to anyone else. So along the way, so take for instance, like before the preliminary exam, if one is to try to align it to a way to kind of help them on their preliminary exam, depending on the student or just the situation, would you agree that some things can either be misconstrued or possibly end up in the wrong area?
Well, no, because the evidence table would be the evidence table. If students are using it to, extract citations to put into a response for an exam or into a paper, that's how you use an evidence table, yes, because you're pulling the particular studies that meet this research question or this topic or whatever. But the citations would still be the same, and the information from that article would still be the same. And again, you would still have the PDF, you would have the actual physical document from that article that would be present. So the DOI number is the same. DOI numbers are stable. They're not supposed to change over time. That's the whole point. So that then you can go link that particular article to the original study that was published in a journal. So no, that would not change. That's the whole brilliance and beauty of having a table like that you can go back and retrieve that particular study, even if it's 10 years later.
So would you say that the use of Grammarly, if one is like fixing their reference table, that the use of Grammarly can often change the titles or change numbers?
That I would not know. If it can, then I would say that's a serious detriment to using it, and I would not encourage you to use it. I haven't heard of that being the case. The only way that I'm familiar with Grammarly or other AI tools misrepresenting a citation is if a person has asked it to respond to a question and it's giving you the best information that it can find from whatever data sources it's pulling. But no, using Grammarly or cutting and pasting from an evidence table into another Word document or any other written document, text file, that shouldn't in any way change the citation or change the link to the DOI number or to make the PDF unretrievable. No.
Well, I mean, in your statement, you stated that you are unaware that Grammarly would do such a thing. But if you haven't experienced it firsthand, then, can you say that you don't really understand that can possibly be? Would you agree that you don't understand that can possibly be?
I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I would think it's highly unlikely. And the whole point of having an evidence table, again, is that it's a handy document to help keep all your citations and all the articles that you've read on a particular topic in one place to keep them organized. And it's very helpful to have that table when you're writing an article or you're writing a manuscript or a response to an exam question about a particular topic. You would pull citations from that evidence table. But you, the author of that, would still be in control of which article you're citing and when, and what are the statements that you're citing, that this citation backs up this statement that you just wrote. For this particular article critique, the detail in the written narrative is very, very, very specific to a particular article. And I still haven't seen evidence that there is that particular article out there. I haven't seen the PDF that corresponds to the written critique that was in the student's preliminary exam. That is my number one question about the integrity of this written exam.
Okay, so under Hoop 186, a finding of academic dishonest requires intentional misconduct supported by evidence, not inference, correct?
That is correct.
And so you're inferring that are you inferring that I have a misconstrued or a bad data when it comes to keeping my EBI?
My concern is when the request was made, hey, we think there's a mistake, maybe the citation was the wrong one, please can you send us the PDF that corresponds to the written critique, the detailed written critique that is in Student 7 exam theory section. The two PDFs that were then offered and said, hey, this is what I used to write my critique. I'm concerned that neither of those two PDFs match the very detailed written critique that is in the student exam. They're different study designs, they're different health topics, that there's no match. So that is my fundamental concern about the integrity of Student 7 written exam for theory section 1.
And so another question that I would like to ask, based upon the student body, how often is it that you have a student that writes about Black men and mental health?
Probably rarely, but I don't see that that's relevant because that doesn't correspond to the exam. Different students pick different topics, but the exam is set. It's clear that you are to choose, the student is to choose a published article that applies the theory that they've been talking about to the health topic and the priority population. And that the written critique that's in the exam is supposed to show the students' knowledge of strengths and weaknesses of how researchers apply, operationalize a particular theory. So when I read the critique of that, whatever the health topic is, it does not matter what the health topic is, I should be able to match that very detailed written critique to the published article that was the study that the student reviewed to be able to write this very detailed critique. And that is the number one issue with this exam.
Yeah, and so the reason why I asked this question is because Dr. Emery asked you or made a statement that I've had other academic issues that's not related to this preliminary exam. And so throughout my time at the university, you've seen other writing samples of mine. Could you tell me like what were the topics that you remember me writing about?
I actually don't know that I have seen writing samples of yours. I haven't had you in class. I don't believe. I don't think so. Or have I been a grader for you? I don't believe. And I was blinded. So the exams are blinded purposefully so that we don't know who the student is. So when I was reviewing this, it was student 7. So I don't know that I'm not thinking about who writes on this topic or how this is, who this could be. I'm just reading and grading what is on the paper.
Okay, so based upon like if you had a student in your class before and you're familiar with their writing, would you be able to tell who or guesstimate or make an inference on what student have written if they were even if you were blinded?
I don't see how that's relevant because again, I'm going to read the exam based on what is written on the paper, and we have detailed grading rubrics that we use to grade every single section of the exam, and then the two reviewers meet to compare their grading of the particular exam. So it's not a question of what is the topic or who might the student be. We are purely grading this based on what was written, and two minds independently reviewing this exam aligned to the rubric and assigning points to the response that was written on the paper. It doesn't matter what the topic is or who we may or may not think the student may be. That's why we have the whole blinding system and why we have very detailed grading rubrics and why we do this sort of inter-rater reliability with the two reviewers.
Okay, that's all the questions that I have for Dr.
Okay.
Moore.
Thank you, Clayton.
And the university, do you have any follow-up questions?
Yes, I do. So apart from the, I had heard you say that one of the potential explanations was AI. Is that correct, Dr. Markham?
Yes, we had a best case scenario and a worst case scenario, yes.
Okay. But apart from knowing how this happened, how citations were created that don't exist, or and apart from knowing whether so a student writes in an exam statements, they're critiquing an article and they're writing statements and they cite a non-existent article. They're talking about a study design that we can't, or you couldn't find, or what have you. Is that an academic integrity issue?
I would say yes, because the whole premise of science is that it's reproducible, that you should be able to validate any statement that you make. When I teach class or write, grade student papers, if they make a statement and they don't have a citation for it, I'll say, hey, where's your citation? And so, yeah, that's fundamental to the training in a doctoral level program in health promotion and behavioral sciences, where it's all about integrity, about reproducibility, transparency. You should be able to support any statement with citations from the literature or from evidence or from personal communication. So that is just the gold standard of how we would write papers.
So apart from knowing whether it was AI or not, citing non-existent articles and making up statements or putting statements down that can't be backed up is a major academic integrity issue.
I would say yes. It's not how one would practice good science.
Okay, thank you.
I have just a follow up with that. So I just want to refer to Hoop 186 again about student conduct and discipline. So the key principles that I'm relying on is that Dr. Emery is continuously suggesting the use of AI, but according to Hoop 186, academic dishonesty requires evidence of intentional misconduct. Also, inference, suspicions, or belief is insufficient, and the burden of proof is on the university. So in plain language of Hoop 186 is that the intent must be demonstrated by evidence, not inferred from writing style, quality, or citation errors. So based upon citation errors, based upon policy, it can't be inferred that I use AI. I can understand how I can see how my mix and my the sources that I improperly cited, but you make an inference about AI. That's not according to Hoop policy because there's nothing to back it up as far as that issue. But Hoop policy definitely says that writing style, quality, or citation errors must be intent demonstrated by evidence. And if you don't have evidence that supports that, then it can't be used against me in this proceeding.
So I would just ask one more time, the one thing that I wanted at the beginning of all this was just to see the actual article that was used to write the written critique that's very detailed. It's well written in the exam. And there have been multiple opportunities to provide me that PDF. And that still has not been, I still to this day have not seen that article. So whatever burden of proof there is, that's from the beginning, that's all I've wanted for this exam. The number one thing I've wanted is to see the PDF that actually corresponds to the very detailed narrative critique of a particular article that's in the student's exam.
Okay, any final questions for this witness?
No.
Thank you, and the witness may be excused.
Thank you.
And Dr. Emery, your next witness.
Okay, Melissa Peskin. Thank you, Dr. Peskin, for joining us. Can you describe your role at the school?
Sure. I am a professor at the School of Public Health, and I'm in the Department of Health Promotion and Behavioral Sciences. And I'm also the assistant dean for students for the whole school.
Thank you. And when were you first notified of a problem with Mr. Clayton's exam?
I received an email from Dr. Springer on, I believe it was August 19th, and he indicated that there was an issue with a student's exam.
Great, thank you. And what are the procedures when you're notified regarding an academic integrity issue with a student?
So whenever there are procedures and we follow the Hoop policy for UT Health, we first we send a notice of evidence to the student, and the student is asked to come and meet with me to discuss the concern and to give the student a chance to explain what happened.
And so there was a notice, so you were identified, you were told that they thought there was a problem.
Yes, I was told there was a problem, and then I asked our Peggy Powell, who is our someone who works in the school. She sends the notice of evidence to students when this kind of thing happens. And so she sent the notice of evidence to Mr. Clayton, and then he was asked to meet with me and set up a time, and we set up a time to meet.
Okay, thank you. And then were notes taken regarding the conversation, your
Yes.
first conversation?
Notes were taken.
Okay, and Ms. Bishop, can you show those notes? Okay. Dr. Peskin, can you summarize the notes and what happened during this?
Sure. So what I did is at the beginning of the meeting, I explained to Mr. Clayton, why we were meeting, and summarized the issues that were identified as a concern from the preliminary exam coordinator, Dr. Springer, which had been indicated that the article for in the theory section could not be located based on the citation. And that also that the additional articles that had been submitted by Mr. Clayton also did not match the text. And then also I talked about issues with references in the exam, that there were many in-text citations within the exam that were not in the reference list, and that there were many references in the reference list that linked to articles that were not the article that was indicated in the reference list. And so it linked to other articles with different titles, authors, topics. And so I wanted to give, I told Mr. Clayton, this was what I had been informed about. And so I wanted to give him a chance to explain. And then he indicated that, things had been very stressful, and he'd been working on multiple devices and had the articles mixed up. And so he was going to send me the articles that were used for the exam. And then I also asked him about whether AI was used. And he indicated that, it was used for Grammarly and things like that, but that, he did not use AI. And that I asked him if he could please, send me all of the articles. Please send me all of the articles that were used in the exam. He needs to tell me, what happened, why these articles were included. So if you go to the next steps were that I asked him to send me all of the references that were used. Please send me all of the articles that go with these in-text citations. And then at the end, with all of the references that, link to references that didn't exist, to please send me all of those articles as well. And I followed up in an email with this information.
Right. And how did the student respond?
So the student had already sent me the articles that he said he used for the theory section. He had sent me those articles, and then he also submitted another version of his exam, a second version of his exam, indicating that earlier references were outdated, there were corrected links, and that he had now verified all of the citations, and he is now giving me this version of the exam.
And was he asked to submit a second exam?
No.
Okay. Did he provide the PDFs as you asked, or the correct citation? Sorry.
So he corrected some of the citations, but there were still many citations that were invalid and linked to articles that did not exist. And I had wanted him to go through and for each of these citations and references to tell me specifically, where is each of these from. And it was all, encompassed in this new version of the exam. And so I had to go through the exam and, review and find all of these. And so I found that there were some issues that had been fixed, but there were many, many issues that had not been fixed.
So you reviewed the second submission?
Yes, in depth, the second submission.
And do you have an analysis of that? Did you do an analysis of that second submission?
I did. I think it's
Ms.
in one
Bishop,
of the.
can you put that analysis up?
So what I did is I took I had it categorized by the request. So on the first column, I had the request it was an in-text citation, but we were missing the reference. And so I actually so the request, for example, for Brown et al., I then went to column D and I found Brown et al. In the student's second submission. And then I included my finding here that in the updated submission in the reference list, the DOI doesn't match and the article could not be found. And so for each one of the requests, I had a summary. So you can see down that, where citations were fixed, where there was a remaining DOI or reference issue. And then if you keep going down, these were all of the in-text missing citations. And then further down, you should see where you have improper references in the reference list. So here, this was another type of issue. So for example, line 28, the Baden reference that had linked to an article that didn't exist. And then when I went to the second version of the student's exam in column D, he had left this citation in the updated version, but it still did not link to any citation in the text, and that the DOI was not found. And so I was able to kind of classify for each of these specific issues, had the issue been fixed, or did the issue still remain?
So in the second submission, there were citations to articles that were not able to be located. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the student did not provide those, the PDF or evidence that those citations exist?
No, there was no evidence that those citations existed.
And in your review, did you find any evidence that the student might have used AI?
I did find two pieces of evidence when I reviewed. If you go, there were two citations where when you actually, so every time when I was going through and clicking on the DOI within the student's exam to actually see if it linked to the correct article, for this one in particular, Vieira, it was the link. When I tried to click on the link, it said it was unable to open the link, and that you could see here that the source is chatgpt.com, and that the internet site report that the item you requested could not be found. And I got two of those error messages when I went to look at tried to link to two of the articles that were in the student's exam.
And this was the student's actual link to this information?
Yes, so in the actual student's exam, when I clicked on the link, this was what came up.
Okay.
And this was in the first exam or the second exam?
The second version that was submitted.
Did you, Dr. Peskin, did you check the first exam thoroughly like this?
I did not check the first exam. I only checked the first exam in terms of when I met with the student initially, and that there were issues that had been identified, but the thorough review here was done with the second version.
Mm-hmm. And you checked the second version because this was his response?
Yes.
Okay.
And he had indicated that he had fixed everything in this second version, and so I was checking it here.
Okay. And did you meet with him after the second submission?
Yes. So because there were still issues that were unexplained, I wanted to give the student another opportunity to explain, why these issues were made.
And was there anybody else in the meeting?
Yes, you were there, Dr. Emery.
Okay, thank you. And did he give an adequate explanation?
No, he restated the same explanation that he had provided to me before.
And tell us again what that explanation was.
So it had been a very, stressful week for him. He had had some personal issues that had happened, and he was using, multiple devices, and errors got made that way.
Mm-hmm. And did he mention the use of a evidence-based table?
Yes, he did say that he was using an evidence-based intervention table, which is a table that is used to help, review the literature. And that, AI had been used in terms of reviewing the literature to some extent there.
Okay. And should correct citations, legitimate citations that exist also, if a student's using an evidence-based, an EBI, should those citations also be correct?
Yes.
Okay. And should be real, exist, correct?
Yes, that's the point of the evidence table, is to review the literature and have, your citations there so that it can be used as a guide when you are, pulling it into papers or exams or anything.
Mm-hmm. And what was Dr. Emery, what was my role in all of this?
So, so you are the Senior Associate Dean for Academic and Research Affairs, and my boss. And so when I have issues in academic integrity that that I need to get some assistance on or want some guidance on, or that seem like there is something egregious going on that I want to get your input on, then I always come to you, and you're the next level of review.
Okay. And did I review the exam?
Yes.
What version was
So
that?
you reviewed the first version of the exam.
Uh-huh. And can you describe the summary of what I provided to you? And Ms. Bishop, can you put up the exhibit?
So you did a few reviews. So this first spreadsheet, you went through the references in the first version of the exam, and actually, and again, you looked to see if the DOI went to the article that it said it was going to. And then you also looked to see whether the content of what was in the exam actually matched what was in the article. So for example, for the Baden, you hear, found this reference, you found that the DOI was not found, there was no record of the article, no record of the title, and that the student, could not produce the article.
And in column F,
So
it states, yeah, tell us
so
what that means.
yeah, so in column F,
For Baden specifically.
For Baden. So for Baden, it says, according to the Lancet Regional Health, about 10% of BAA men in the United States have self-recorded clinically depressive symptoms. And so this was what was in the student's exam, but the student couldn't produce an article that had information related to that content.
Mm-hmm. And how serious is it if a student makes a statement and they say, according to, the Lancet Regional Health?
It's very serious. It's probably, of the most egregious things you can do is to, say something is from an article where it doesn't actually exist.
Mm-hmm. So do you know where this information came from or if this statement is actually true?
I have no idea.
Okay. And did I write up a summary of all of the findings from this chart?
Yes, and do you want me to go to the second tab as well?
Yeah, you can go to the second tab.
So this also, so this was also the a detailed review that you did with the actual theory, with the article critique in the theory section. So you actually went through the text of the student's exam and you took each of the articles that the student provided to see if any of the articles matched the text that was provided by the student. So for example, you can see in line 3, the student's text indicated that they were reviewing an article about hypertension, but the article chosen and cited in the preliminary exam, one of the articles had to do with type 2 diabetes. And so you can see across the row, some of the articles did have to do with hypertension, but it wasn't related to hypertension in the context of what the student was writing about. One of the articles didn't provide information about the health belief model, and that's what the text in the student's exam was talking about. So none of the articles that the student provided matched the text of what was in the student's exam.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Ms. Bishop, if you'll put up the summary in the exhibit. And if you will go down to the summary of the findings. Okay. And maybe make it a little bit bigger. And Dr. Peskin, can you talk about this summary?
Sure. So first, you provided a summary of, you provided evidence of academic misconduct that was found, that you found. And this was in reference to the table that we just saw. So first, the cited article did not match the critique. And this was, providing documentation that none of the articles matched the critique and none of the information, provided in the critique matched the articles. And so this led us to believe that what was written was possibly fabricated. Additional evidence of academic misconduct was a review of the articles in the reference list, that 16 references were incorrect or had an incorrect DOI. 13 had inappropriate citations, so they did not match the text. And 20 were not found, and the student did not supply the article after being questioned. And then 25 citations in the document were not included in the reference list. Of those 25 articles, at least 8 were not found, and the student did not supply the article. And at least 6 were inappropriate citations, which means that the citation didn't match the text that was actually provided.
And how serious is this type of behavior?
This is very serious. And what makes it particularly serious is sort of the extent of it. There are many articles that are linked to articles that do not exist. It's a violation of academic integrity if you find one article in a student's paper that is not appropriate, but to find this many articles, this extent, is what makes it particularly egregious. But even one article that is, inappropriate is problematic. So having this many makes it particularly problematic.
And when you say inappropriate,
inappropriate meaning it's valid, so it does not exist. So in terms of making up article text, making up article titles, this is fabrication, and that's what I mean.
Okay, thank you. And when deciding on a penalty for Mr. Clayton, who did you confer with?
I conferred with you.
Okay. And can you describe why you and Dr. Emery decided to dismiss the student?
For the reasons that we have talked about thus far, the extent of the issues, the fabrication was so pervasive and so egregious that this was why we had decided to do a dismissal.
Mm-hmm. Were there any other issues that were referred to your office?
There had been other issues, at least 2 other issues that I had been informed about.
Okay. And Ms. Bishop, you can take this down. I'm just going to ask questions. What were the other issues?
So one of the issues was regarding a homework assignment in a previous class that the student was in. He was retaking the class, and it was a homework assignment, and the faculty had created a new homework assignment so that the student would have a different assignment, and the student had used it was a similar assignment, but they used a different data set. And so when the student submitted the assignment, they were using previous answers from the previous answer key, which showed that there was suspicion that there was copying from the previous answer key because it included the numbers from the previous answer key. And so I met with the student about that.
Uh-huh. And what was the explanation?
The explanation was that, he was, learning how to write this information. He was using it to help, guide him. And he said it was not intentional. And so he received a 0 on that homework assignment. And that was the end of that investigation.
Okay. And was there another incident?
So there was another incident where a faculty member had informed us that she had seen his bio on the Baylor College of Medicine website, and it had his biography there was listed, and it showed that he had already earned his DRPH.
Okay. And Ms. Bishop, do you have that exhibit?
Would you like the LinkedIn, or would you like the emails related to it?
The emails related to the
Okay,
Baylor.
yeah, got it.
And specifically, can you go to the part where it shows the Baylor website?
Can you see?
Okay. Yeah, can you make it a little bit bigger, please?
Yeah.
Okay. And Dr. Peskin, can you describe what you see here?
Yeah, so under education, it says DPH, which similar to DRPH from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, that this had been obtained in January of 2024 for behavioral science and health promotion. And then within the professional statement, it also indicates he's listed as Dr. Clayton.
Okay. And the student has not earned a degree from the University of Texas, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did you meet with Mr. Clayton?
Yes, we did. I did.
And what was his explanation?
So his explanation was that there was just some miscommunication with the people that were doing the website.
So he said it was somebody else who put
Yes,
that on
he
there?
said it was, yeah, this was, it was somebody else who had, made this mistake in this, it was a miscommunication in terms of getting the information on the website with whoever was putting the website together.
Okay. And what happened after that?
So what happened after that is that you sent an email. You were in the meeting with me when we met with the student, and you sent an email to the student indicating that this needed to be taken down, that this was very, very serious problem and is not permissible, and that you had informed him that he needed to take it down.
Okay. And Ms. Bishop, do you want to show Exhibit 18A, that email?
Yes, so this was the email that you sent to him, and he had sent an email saying that he was taking it down, and you were reiterating that the School of Public Health takes academic integrity and honesty very seriously, and that he was expected to present his education and credentials accurately. You also asked him to provide a link to his updated Baylor College of Medicine profile and to update any other communications where he was describing himself, and then indicated that further instances of dishonesty or misrepresentation could result in disciplinary action up to and including dismissal from the program.
Okay. And what was his response? Shannon, do you want to show that, his response, please?
So his response was that he, indicated that he was, a committed public health professional, that he understood how serious this was. He wanted to make sure that he, maintained accurate representations, that he had updated his profile, and that we could view the updated profile there.
Okay. And did Mr. Clayton during this time indicate that he had problems with faculty and some?
Yes.
And what was he told to do, or what type of support was he given?
Yeah, so he was told that he should, if there was any issues with faculty or any problems, that he was to contact the Title IX office. I can't remember the actual name of the office, but that they could, that he, he was given that information and the contact information, and that he could contact that office.
And did he ever, to your knowledge, file a formal report?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you. You can take that down, Ms. Bishop. And going back to the recent violation, can you just mention again the seriousness of this violation, why it's important for students to provide the correct citation, references, and backup statements in their work?
Yeah, so this is sort of the essence of science, is being able to, pull from the literature and cite appropriately. And when a student misrepresents a citation in such an egregious way, making up citations, making up text, that is very serious academic fraud and dishonesty, and it's just not allowed. So, and so it's just very serious.
And did Mr. Clayton ever admit wrongdoing, even or an adequate explanation?
So he admitted that there were issues, that there had been some mistakes were made, but just could never provide a satisfactory explanation to sort of the extent. I mean, sometimes you might expect there to be little mistakes sometimes with citations, and so students will sometimes be able to explain that, but these mistakes were so extensive, he could not provide an explanation for why there was so many articles that were included that did not exist.
Okay. And back to the incident where the posting of a doctoral degree, did Mr. Clayton take responsibility?
He said that it was, it was a miscommunication and that somebody else had not put in the correct information.
Okay, so he didn't admit that he had.
He did not admit that he had done anything.
And do you recall if you and Dr. Emery asked if any other websites had those credentials?
Yes, we did. We did ask if any other websites had those credentials, and he said no.
Okay. And so this was part of your decision-making for the dismissal?
Yes, because it really was part of a pattern of behavior that was violating academic integrity, that it did play into the decision to dismiss the student.
Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Okay. Hello, Dr. Peskin. So it's a lot for me to try to, get in, but I was trying to keep notes of where to go from here. But I'll start off by saying, Dr. Peskin, during my meeting with you and Dr. Emery, the discussion beyond citation clarification into questions about my credibility and background, is this factual versus not emotional?
Can you say the question again?
So during our meeting with yourself and Dr. Emery, the discussion extended beyond the citation issue into questions about my credibility and background.
Are you asking me, did that
Yes.
discussion play into it? I can't recall. I can't recall.
Okay, because based upon under Hoop Policy 186 with student conduct and discipline, the authority to initiate and conduct investigations alleged students' misconduct resets with being able to identify individually what the student has done and not to investigate past anything that's not assignment related. So would you say that Dr. Murphy's investigation into my personal profile and also my LinkedIn profile that I rarely use is an invasion of privacy, also going against policy in which faculty should treat everyone the same without taking their own personal stance against that student?
So she did it personally. Someone had shared that with her, and she shared it with us. And you know, we expect all students to represent themselves accurately through all of their communications. We do talk to the students about having LinkedIn profiles. It is something that we do talk about. So it is something that we see. We also see, we do research with people all over the medical center. And so it's not unusual for a faculty to come across a student, at another institution, because they're working with faculty who work at that same institution. So she was in no way trying to find something. She was no way targeting you in any way. It just happened to be something that someone shared this with her.
So, but that would still be operating underneath the scope of her duties as my professor at that time, according to Hoop Policy 106, correct? I'm sorry, Hoop Policy 109, because it states that the standard of conduct reinforces that the university members must act within the scope of their assigned authority and responsibilities. So by her searching in my Baylor profile or LinkedIn profile that was outside of her duties within her assigned role. So this is not me making up anything. This is this Hoop policy stating that faculty members believe that something looked concerning does not expand the authority to go outside of the class assignment to actually report that if anything should be reported back to the university, right?
So I would say that it is still within the scope of her role as a professor. She's a faculty in the department that the student is in, and any faculty member could come across that information.
So according to policy, if it's not an assignment that's related to the course, that professor is not to is not allowed to associate that with some current issues. And also, I feel that also with Hoop policy, using the source of a pattern that's taken place should not be also associated with the original issue at hand, which is the preliminary exam. And would you agree that outside, based on policy, would you agree that issues that have been resolved in the past should not be used against a current situation?
So in the letter that was sent to you by Dr. Emery, it does say that, future instances of academic, violations of academic integrity could result in future consequences. And so I do feel that it is within the scope to consider that. However, I feel that even if those other two instances had not occurred, the extent of the fabrication and alleged dishonesty that occurred in the preliminary exam in and of itself justifies the dismissal. This was very, very egregious in terms of the amount of citations that could not be located, that, even if this previous pattern hadn't existed, I believe we would have still recommended dismissal from the program.
So didn't Dr. Emery just ask you that one of the factors that contributed to this dismissal was the acts of previous incidents, correct?
It was. I mean, it reinforced the decision that that this was an appropriate consequence.
Okay. So the conversation moved quickly from academic clarification to disciplinary concern. At any point was any direct instruction or communication as far as academic remediation or guidance provided to me?
At the type of errors that this was not, a simple mistake where, one or two references was a problem. This was, pervasive in terms of the amount of citations that were fabricated, and it shows a academic dishonesty, which, according to Hoop policy, it is an appropriate consequence to dismiss a student, and remediation is not required in that instance.
Yeah, but doesn't Hoop policy also say that there's other routes before dismissal?
I'd have to look at the Hoop policy exactly to see what it says. I don't have it memorized, but that is one of the consequences.
Okay, so I'll read the Hoop policy verbatim when regarding fabricated, because you use it very loosely. So I want to be very precise about the terminology. So under Hoop 186, fabrication requires the intentional creation of false data or sources with purpose of deception. That did not occur here. And so what occurred here was citation and attribution errors resulting with poor verification and disorganized preparation, which you agreed at the beginning that I did tell you that I was facing some mental health concerns. I also was going through burying my grandmother, and also taking care of the funeral arrangements of my uncle. And I also told you about me using different devices. So those errors are serious and I take responsibility for them, but they do not meet the policy definition of fabrication because the intent was not established. And so there's no intent or anything for me to gain academically for fabricating sources or not using them. When I spoke to you and Dr. Emery, I definitely stated that I was working in between different devices, which is very true. So also within that stem, I also told you that I was undergoing withdrawal symptoms from my medication. I was sleep deprived. And in that meeting, the initial meeting that we had with Dr. Emery and you and myself, is that Dr. Emery, when I was telling her about my medical issues and me switching devices, she said that, it sounds like all excuses. Would you would you say that that's the right terminology to use to a student that's in distress?
Well, I don't. So you've asked a lot of different questions there, so I'm not quite sure where I should start. But the first is that the core issue here is that the explanation that you provided in terms of being having these personal issues, which, we completely empathize with, do not explain the extent of the errors that occurred within this exam. The extent of errors is so pervasive that the explanation that you provided just does not, it just doesn't, it does not satisfy, doesn't satisfy me. It is very difficult for me to understand how so many articles could be included in an exam that do not exist. It seems unbelievable to me, actually. If I see this one time in a student's paper, this is an issue, but there were so many issues that being with multiple devices or being stressed out does not, to me, explain how these errors could have occurred. It just doesn't.
So even if a student has been disoriented on medication, that wouldn't explain it as well?
Not this extent. And you also did have the opportunity to, reach out to Dr. Springer and ask for, you had more time that was not used. So I can sense that this might have happened, maybe for a few, but just the pervasiveness is it's just too hard. It's too hard for me to believe that this was all due to being stressed out.
So you keep saying stressed out, but I'm saying medication adherence issues that have been clinically and diagnosed by my provider.
Sure.
In which I shared with you guys, but to say that they were all excuses, and you're saying that you just don't see how this can possibly happen based upon those. So my other question is that when you say that the article doesn't exist, so my thing is I take accountability that I was switching between devices. I'm not saying
Mr. Clayton, could you stick to asking
Okay,
your witness
I'm
questions,
sorry.
please?
Yeah.
You'll have a chance to present all of your information. in
All right,
just a
thank
bit.
you. Okay. And so incorrect or mismatched citation does not by itself establish that an article was intentionally fabricated. It established that citation was wrong. Um, um, so when you say multiple citations are fabricated, multiple citation errors do not change the evidentiary standard of Hoop Policy 186. It still requires proof of intentional fabrication. And so what I keep hearing is that you're saying that you're making the assumption that it was intentional when there is no evidence to support intent. And so my thing is, during our meeting, was it taken into consideration about alongside switching devices? So I want to also, because Dr. Emery laid a lot out, but I also want to go back to the initial articles, right? So when you initially asked me for the articles, I even with Dr. Springer, I immediately responded to the articles that I thought were relevant. I realized when Dr. Springer brought it to my attention that, I had a mishap, but also, when you asked me about the articles, didn't I send you all the articles and justify that I was a little confused based upon the switching of devices?
You did send me multiple articles and said you were confused, but none of the articles matched what was in the exam.
So also, if someone is underneath a medical issue, um, do you believe that those things can actually be convoluted by their medical issue?
I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't know. I just know what I saw in terms of the evidence, and there were many fabricated references that were included.
And so, would you agree so do you agree that I was given enough time to review the evidence that you guys presented to me?
The evidence that,
So everything that you showed here today, the evidence. So I want to just so the question is that I know Dr. Emery, Dr. Peskin, and Shannon, you know, I mean, Ms. Bishop, you guys compiled evidence. And so I was given a strict timeline to give my evidence by a specific time, which the original hearing date was on 11/20th. And I wasn't provided this evidence and witness statements until 11/18. So would you say procedurally I wasn't provided enough time to actually prepare for the evidence that you presented?
I don't know all of the dates
Okay.
specifically.
So I can tell you the dates, but I'll wait until afterwards. So I just want to focus upon the question here. So if someone if you're going up to try to defend your character and your grade, and you were given a deadline for the 20th, but you didn't receive the other party's evidence, and your policy states that the other party is supposed to have a substantial amount of time to review that evidence, to prepare, and you receive it 2 days prior, would you agree that that's enough time to prepare?
It's really not up to me to make that judgment call. It's really, this is really based on, policies that are set by the university.
Yeah, and so I'm quoting policy.
And can we move on from that? Because that is actually out of a question directly to the witness.
Okay. And also, I want to go back to Dr. Murphy's issue. So you said that it was her privilege to do so. So are you familiar with Hoop Policy 109 and what it states about university community members?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, so Hoop Policy 109 states university community members are required to understand this policy to ensure work is performed in an ethical and legal manner. Failure to review, understand, or seek guidance on policies and regulation is not valid for non-compliance. So when you say that there was a right for her to use her unassigned authority underneath this policy, was based upon assumption, concern, or good faith?
In my capacity as a faculty member, I felt that it was appropriate that if a student in the department that she's a faculty member in, for any student she would see something like this, it would be passed along to the department chair.
But underneath policy, I'm not
I can't speak to I can't speak directly to that because I don't know the policies. But
So, do you believe that pattern from older incidents should be brought into something current, a current incident? This pattern?
I think it can play a role. I think it's really situation specific. But if there is a pattern of behavior that seems like it's violating academic integrity, to me, it does seem appropriate to bring that into play.
Okay, for Hoop Policy 186, it authorizes discipline only for the charged conduct based on evidence supporting the specific allegation under review. So when you and Dr. Emery are bringing in issues related to previous coursework or issues with work-related issues, that will fall out of the Hoop 186 for pattern. So there's that permits that.
And as I said, even if I take away those other instances, I would still submit that the consequence of dismissal is still appropriate for what occurred with the preliminary exam.
Okay.
And I think you've asked this question. If we can move on, please.
Okay. I'll move on to another thing. Because I'm trying to also, I wanted to justify, but the other things, but I think that's at the end of everything. So I don't have any more questions. Oh yeah, I do have another question. And so, Dr. Peskin, when Dr. Emery asked you to lay out issues. I'm sorry, when Dr. Emery asked you or asked me that if I had any issues resulting from faculty issues, that I can just bring it up. But in that meeting when we were talking about, Baylor and LinkedIn, correct?
She said you could file a complaint.
And so do you remember what my response was in that incident?
I don't recall.
Okay, my response was that during when Dr. Smith was in your role before she retired, is that procedure was never given to me. I've talked to my advisor about it. I've talked to Dr. Smith about it, and I was never advised on a procedure on which to report it. But I definitely have told you even about issues that are related to other incidents, and you've never directed me in that situation. So that's why I'm asking, like, if you remember, like, what was my response? Because I also remember my response being like, oh, if I would have known, I would have reported in the right direction. Would you agree? Do you remember any of that?
I mean, I can't recall other instances where you've had those conversations with me. But I know that all students, I believe all students are provided with that information in terms of where they can make complaints if
So
there are issues.
do you believe or do you know?
I don't know for sure, but I know UT Health always provides communication in terms of these kinds of things. So I believe that they do.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Peskin.
Just one follow-up question, if that's okay. Did in the letter about the DRPH violation, were links and recommendations made to where Mr. Clayton could report any prior issues that he might have had?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Dr. Peskin, would you say that when it came to the links and regarding like Baylor and LinkedIn, would you agree or disagree that I stated that a intern used what on my LinkedIn profile that did not have doctor or anything instructed on there, that I told them to use it because I was out of office and I wasn't focused upon the updated website. And so the intern put it on the website as updated to doctor, right? Correct?
For the Baylor website?
Yes.
So I recall you saying that that this other person had made the mistake, but I don't remember the specifics in terms of how they had made the mistake, or that I don't remember you talking about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Also, when it comes to I'm trying to think. Oh, you mentioned about the submission of the work that's in 1420 quantitative analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And you asked me about me using previous data. Can you recall what was the reason why I said that I relied upon a previous table that was used?
Yeah, I mean, you said that you're having challenges with learning how to write these interpretations and how to do this, and so you were using it as a guide to help you learn how to write, to do the appropriate interpretations.
Mm-hmm. So if I'm within my extended period of time and I submit a second submission within hours, is it appropriate for the grader to grade the first submission or the second submission of within that ADA allotted time?
I would really have to check with our ADA coordinator, UT Health coordinator, about that specific. I would have to check on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, this witness can be excused.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that brings us to our last witness.
Yes, Sarah Donahue. Thank you, Ms. Donahue. Can you tell us what your role is at the School of Public Health?
Of course. I am the Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs and Student Services. I oversee the Office of Academic Affairs and Student Services, which covers the full student life cycle, admissions through graduation, and also focus on accreditation.
Great, thank you. And during the spring 2025, were you made aware of an incident regarding Mr. Clayton's posting of false credentials?
Yes,
And did you see the Baylor website?
I did.
Mm-hmm. And did you know of any other websites that Mr. Clayton posted false credentials?
I checked LinkedIn and saw that the DRPH was posted. Actually, it said Doctor of Science, but it had an end date of December 2025, which was not accurate.
Okay. And Ms. Bishop, could you pull that up?
If you scroll down to the education section, you can see the information.
Okay. And
I
and
believe,
this, go ahead.
sorry, I believe there was a second attachment that clicked show all education. Do you have that one?
I don't, Sarah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
just can you describe what you found?
Sure. I have another PDF where I had clicked show all 4 educations where it showed the start and end date. And the end date of December 25 was posted on that document.
Mm-hmm. And was how far off is Mr. Clayton from getting a doctoral degree?
At least 3 years probably, because the student has not passed the preliminary exam, which means that they've not worked on their dissertation proposal or final dissertation. So usually 2 to 4 years from preliminary exam, could be longer.
And is it common for the school to look at students' LinkedIn profile?
Yes, it's something that I do, relatively frequently when I'm looking up employment information. A lot of students do add me on LinkedIn because it's a professional network, of course. And then the school does incentivize appropriately linking to the school. So as you're aware, we've had an identity crisis over the last couple of years with changing names and logos. And so we host events for students where we take headshots if they're appropriately linked to the school or following the school. So it's not, it's something I do frequently.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Mr. Clayton, any questions?
Yes, so the question is that is it within a student or a person creating a LinkedIn profile or a resume, since you say you've worked with students in that capacity, is it normal for them to put an expectation end date for their degree?
It's not abnormal, but it would say expected or anticipated or in progress. But normally what I would see when I work with a student is that they would say they are currently enrolled in that program versus when they're done.
Okay. So if I'm currently enrolled and I have an end date that's set for the future, that isn't me falsifying. That's just me going, could that be interpreted as a student believing that that's their set graduation date? Can it be inferred that way?
That's not a question that I can answer because it's not my place to make inferences. I will say when I remember checking the Baylor website, and I believe it had your name, comma, DRPH, that would, in my opinion, be interpreted as having completed the degree program. It also did not say expected on LinkedIn. So, again, I think it was inaccurate.
Mm-hmm. And so with that, are you aware of like so I noticed I noticed that you said that a person have to complete the preliminary exam and they also have to complete their dissertation, what did you say, dissertation writing?
Proposal?
Proposal. Okay, so are you aware that I completed my dissertation proposal?
I'm not.
Okay, so so based upon the
Just for reference, the dissertation proposal is not supposed to be completed prior to completion of the preliminary exam. So in the academic progress, that's why I made that comment. And you had not completed the preliminary exam successfully.
Okay. And so at the time, so my thing is like, so you're just basing this upon general expectations from all students?
It's our academic policy of when you are supposed to, complete your proposal.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions.
Yes, Ms. Donahue. What are the procedures for working on a proposal?
Enrollment in dissertation credit hours, submission of a committee. There are a number of different forms and paperwork that need to be submitted to my office, but that's overseen by a different staff member. So I have not inquired specifically about your dissertation proposal. If IRIS and IRB approvals, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And then also what happens after that? So they submit their committee and say that they're going to work on a proposal, and then they get those approvals, and then they have to work on the proposal. Can they work on a proposal by themselves and say that the proposal is done?
No, the proposal process is a very iterative and collaborative process with the students committee. It really depends on the nature of the dissertation, but it would absolutely include multiple rounds of feedback and input by faculty. It also requires a publicly advertised dissertation proposal defense that would go in our newsletter and on our events website.
And then after that proposal, so that's a process. And then after that proposal, what happens after that?
Sure. So the committee would sign off that the proposal was completed satisfactorily and submit that to my team, who would review the documentation and ensure that all of the forms and paperwork are aligned before clearing the proposal, is the term that we use. At that point, the student would be expected to enroll in dissertation research hours every semester through completion of the dissertation and degree program.
So is there any possibility that Mr. Clayton could have finished by December 2025?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
And so my other follow-up question is that, and so you're not aware of that I completed my dissertation credit hours, correct?
You may have enrolled in the minimum required number of credit hours, but you are expected or required by our academic policy to enroll in dissertation research hours every semester following your proposal defense through graduation, or until you've completed your final dissertation, which is upon graduation.
So it's okay for a student to work with a mentor or someone that's advising them to work towards perfecting their proposal before they actually submit it, correct?
I mean, a student could work with an external person or with an advisor or faculty mentor and their committee, but it would have to go through the formal process. So it would have to go through the formal process for approvals.
So even with independent work that's enrolled in their course, is that permitted?
I'm not understanding the question. Independent work enrolled in what course?
So if I'm enrolled into a dissertation proposal course and I'm working with a staff. So I worked with Dr. Springer on my proposal. And he worked with me throughout the process of how to perfect it, how to write it, and how to present it, which we've had an on-standing relationship of making sure that I go through that process. That is allowed, correct?
Are you speaking of the doctoral seminar proposal course, or are you speaking of actual PhD 9999 enrollment with Dr. Springer?
PhD 999 with Dr. Springer.
Yes, that is allowed. You are expected to enroll with your dissertation chair or supervisor, but your committee must have a minimum of 3 School of Public Health full-time faculty, who would all have to provide guidance and input on your dissertation proposal, and would all have to review and approve before you would be marked as complete with the dissertation proposal.
Okay. So that's all the questions that I have, because everything else is based upon evidence. But thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. The witness may be excused.
Okay, should I leave or go back to the waiting room?
You can leave.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, and Mr. Clayton, you can begin your case.
Okay. Let me get everything together. All right. So thank y'all for allowing me to this time to present my evidence. And so the thing is, as today I will briefly, present my case in alignment with the University of Texas School of Public Health policy. The matter concerns a single allegation related to my preliminary exam. Under Hoop 186, the review must be limited to charge conduct. The evidence director supported the charge and whether the process followed university policy. My presentation will remain within that scope. So in the case of whether my preliminary exam submission constitute academic misconduct, underneath the process used to evaluate the submission compiled with Hoop 86, I would say that it is about I would say that the addition about my professional employment, my advocacy, my prior coursework, and any alleged pattern that is given up should also not be associated with this preliminary exam. So I would like to show like the first evidence about with my doctor's note that I have that I was actually under distress during the time. How do you share of this issue? Share. I haven't used Zoom in a while, sorry. Oh, I see it. Okay. Okay, so this is just showing that based upon, can y'all see my screen? Okay, so based upon this, my doctor pretty much saying was just advising, because I was talking to him through the process of how I was undergoing like withdrawal symptoms from my medication. And so we started at the beginning of the month, but I kept having issues until where I had to jump back on it, jump back on medication and then jump back off because of issues related to personal issues to my my grandmother and my uncle. But it also just states about like just the severe clinically significant issues that I have during the time of testing, which is intense anxiety and agitation, and the list goes on. But in addition to that, I'm on medication that's contributing to immune support therapy. And so just being on that medication alone causes me to have a fuzziness during the process in which I was taking my exam. And so when I was saying like I was under distress and undergoing mental health issues. This is the letter signed and notated by my doctor that this is one of the issues that I was definitely having. And I'm hoping that based upon the policy that is taken into consideration. Okay. And so per AD.
Could you leave the letter up for one more minute?
Yeah.
I just want to reread it, please.
Yes, I'm sorry. Let me leave it up for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And so I wanted to bring also like cite ADA about and so when I spoke to the ADA apartment about this letter and about this issue, they told me that they couldn't retrospectively apply the issues related to the into my preliminary exam, but looking at the policy regarding ADA, I think it's Hoop Policy 101. It says under Hoop Policy 101 states that the University of Texas is committed to providing reasonable accommodations and ensuring equal access to academic programs. And so programs for individuals with physical and mental impairments that substantially limit major life activities and learning. So I presented Exhibit A because I'm not asserting that a retroactive accommodation, nor am I claiming being incapacitated. I'm offering Exhibit A to solely provide medical context relevant to stress, cognitive load, and fairness. So under Hoop 101, medical documentation may explain context. Also, Hoop 186, it says that the hearing officer should consider surrounding circumstances and proportionality when evaluating allegations and sanctions. So Hoop 101 ensures that medical information is considered supportive and without adverse inference. And so I just want that to be taken into the record of that during the period of with me working on my preliminary exam that I was without assistance. And let me show you my Exhibit B. And so let me share my screen. So based upon, this is my EBI table. And so this is something that I just compiled. So this is just an example that I compiled throughout a lot of my academic journey from being here at the university. And so I've had things in here that I had to go back in and correct, because even like using Grammarly, I would, some titles or things may change, some punctuations. Sometimes some numbers may change if they have some issues related to it. But I just wanted to show that my way of initially setting it up, I kind of sort of built upon that by putting certain titles in my own way of what I choose to talk about. So if I'm talking about something related to theory, I go to a page that I've dedicated to theory-based approach when it comes to Black and African American men. And regarding my cohort, one of the reasons why I asked Dr. Markham if she was familiar with my writing is because it has been stated in previous work that I'm one of the only students who writes about Black men and mental health concerns. And so even in a blind study, one can say that they can limit the person to who's writing. But I wanted to bring out that my EBI table, I just kind of use it for, myself. So nothing is I wouldn't say perfect. So like for this literature here, I just put look at stigma. If it's mentioned, stigma used this article. And so when Dr. Emery, when I met with her, she never seen this and never did she request it. And so she told me that my type of conducting of research and how I actually allocate my research is called bad science. And so to me, this is a part of my ADA and this is a part of my learning comprehension. And so I can see how some of my sources may not be the best, but this is what I relied on because I tried to use my evidence-based table to kind of guide how I wrote my preliminary exam. And so I'm not saying that it's perfect and that it will work for everybody, but for me, it helped guide a lot of the things that I was writing about. And so I leave small notes to myself so I can just understand, like if I'm writing something and I've been writing about Black men and mental health, that a lot of times I just kind of sort of used what I've been writing on. And so a lot of that, I would say that I didn't fabricate sources or anything, but what I did do is ensure that I tried to get some order into things. So during the process of me uh, uh, putting everything into order, what I'm thinking happened is that a lot of my citations were transformed and changed. And so that's what I was explaining to Dr. Emery and Dr. Peskin, is that within my EBI, like they may consider it bad science, but for me it worked, but at least I thought it worked. But I do acknowledge that I should have double checked the work before, my EBI table before using it. But the thing is, like under complete emotional and medical distress, is that I actually just kind of sort of uh, built my writing based upon this. And so I would say that, as Dr. Springer stated, like I did pass both both sections other than the article critique. So I do have some supporting evidence that my writing is sound. But my citations that I use could have had some more clarification. And so, but this is just an example of my EBI that I wanted to show exactly what it is and how I've used it throughout my doctoral to help me along with my studies. And I tried to use the same thing for the preliminary exam. You want me to leave it up or take it down?
You can take it down, thanks.
Okay. And so the thing is, let me close this. And I want to go to my next exhibit, which is exhibit C. So this is the alleged plagiarism that they brought up as far as a pattern. And I wanted to kind of sort of debunk that issue of plagiarism. So this is regarding 1420, which is quantitative analysis. I think 1420L, which is quantitative analysis. And so I had to take the class prior. And so I took the class originally with another professor, and I reported to Dr. Peskin and Dr. Smith that I had some issues with the professor because her TA stated that she didn't think that it was fair for me to get an ADA accommodation for extra time. And I reported that to my academic advisor as well as Dr. Smith. And so it's always been some tension within that class, and I didn't get the proper support that I needed because the TA didn't interact or give extra support to students like myself who do need extra accommodations. And the faculty, they kind of sort of kept it to you need to kind of understand. So the thing is that I've had access to I had access to my previous exam in which they told me that my output from the exam, my output, which is the table, wasn't correct. So I wanted to ensure that I was making the right decision in doing the table the way that they wanted me to do it. So I went and I used the original table as a reference. but the issue is that Dr. Emery and Dr. Peskin are trying to use that as an excuse to say that I've had other issues related to that result in a pattern. I want to show you that I actually talked to Dr. Peskin, I mean, not Dr. Peskin, Dr. Murphy about this issue, and just show you what that looks like on this end. And so here you can see just she was telling me about please refrain from pasting output from Stata, instead create your own table to summarize results. And at this time, I wanted to ensure that I was properly documenting and doing what was right. So I took that feedback and I wanted to ensure that, you know, I was well within making sure that I did everything correctly. And so this is the assignment that Dr. Emery is saying that I plagiarized. So if you can notice on the timestamps here, so this was in my allotted ADA time. So I initially uploaded the incorrect ones. I was working on the one that I used to kind of guide my work. And so I uploaded it and I even left a message. I said, I uploaded the incorrect one yesterday. I'm loading the correct one that reflects the correct table label, which I'm acknowledging that the one that I submitted isn't the one that should be graded. And here, I have other to show that, you know, so this is the first, and I've also submitted a second one, which I'll show here. It said, here's the correct file after speaking with Dr. Peskin. And so, here you can see on February 19th, I corrected it. I'm sorry. If you see here on February 17th, I did 2 different attempts. So that first attempt was the table that I used as a guide, but the second attempt was my actual paper. So Dr. Murphy chose to grade the first paper instead of my second submission, which I brought as a concern because it's like she chose to grade the first submission rather than my last submission, which had the updated and accurate information that I actually created. And so when she brought that I plagiarized, it caught me off guard because I'm like, I know I submitted my second attempt, but I met with Dr. Murphy, and Dr. Peskin, that's when she told me about that I wasn't supposed to use the information. I reiterated to her that I wanted to make sure that that I was meeting, you know, the guidelines set forth with the exercise. So I want to just raise that, you know, the legality of pattern, this being taken into consideration should not be aligned into this issue of this into this preliminary exam, because it Hoop 186 shows that patterns should fall directly upon the specific context and not previous issues that have been related. And so that is why I'm sharing this. And then with my exhibit D, which Dr. Springer already went into a lot of these things. But I also want to share that I don't know if Dr. Springer talked about it, but I definitely shared with him like the distress of me going through this process. Let's see, let me close some of these. Yeah. And so this is just me, you know, letting them know about the issue that's at hand. And I'm also telling him that, you know, my advisor is not supporting me in this issue. I reached out to her multiple times and she's kind of sort of left me underneath the whim. So when they asked me, like, should I have reached out to someone, I lacked integrity within the process because I've tried reaching out multiple times to my academic advisor. Dr. Emery has also made me uncomfortable to the point of coming to her with a lot of things, because when she was reviewing things with me about Baylor, she even told me that my picture didn't look like me. She questioned my years of experience in public health. She also she questioned, said, do you really have over 20 plus years of experience? And I had to reiterate to her that yes, I do have over 20 plus years of experience. I've been working in public health since 2004, you know. So the thing is that, you know, to have that question, it kind of put me in a bad situation. And I've also reported to Dr. Smith before she left, and my advisor, about the issues.
I'm sorry, in what capacity have you been working in public health since 2004?
I was a community health worker at Legacy Community Health. And so I was doing testing in bars. I was doing testing in bathhouses, as well as doing education around the city of Houston and Harris County regarding STDs. I was also one of the individuals that was in charge of making sure that PrEP was at the forefront within public health. So within my scope of working at Legacy, I was traveling. One of the first places I went was Colorado to work at the sexual health conference to actually talk to physicians and talk to researchers about prescribing PrEP to the LGBTQ plus community without any regard of their status, and just getting them educated. So I've been in public health quite a long time.
And sorry, when were you talking about PrEP?
I was talking about PrEP. PrEP rolled out, I would say, early when we were trying to get it approved in like 2006, 2007, if I can recall. And the first medication I believe that was approved was Descovy, if I'm not mistaken. There's been a lot that has come out, but I've been working with public health professionals for a long time. When I first graduated college and moved to Houston, I started working at Legacy Community Health Worker as a just in a volunteer capacity, but then brought on as a public health professional, as a community health worker. And so for Dr. Emery to challenge those things, and even to say that my picture on LinkedIn didn't look like me, I found that to be quite offensive. Along with when she said that my mental health, and also me talking about switching between devices, that was also offensive as well. And I felt like it didn't have any relation to what we were actually talking about. And I also want to just show you that how I've attempted to reach out to my advisor many times. I'm trying to show you the link between my advisor, how I reached out to her multiple times, starting all the way from November 9th, you know, the lack of timeliness. So from November 9th all the way to December 1st, you can see that I did request to be allowed to take my dissertation hours. And I was also telling her about my emotional distress. Even, you know, with Dr. Markham suggesting some of the things that she suggests, I was also having an issue to where it had got so problematic for me within the department that I was even considering switching my concentration altogether, because it seemed like I was reporting issues to my advisor about Dr. Peskin, Dr. Murphy, Dr. Boo and her TA when her TA said that she didn't think it was fair. Also, when Dr. Peskin and Dr. Murphy had also made me feel like my mental health or just issues that I was going through did not matter. And here's just more text message that shows that I definitely reached out for help. I'm trying to move it. Yeah, that I definitely reached out for help here, and it's just a lack of respondents. And so I have many of those text messages just to show that
It looks like it looks like on May 1st you responded within about 25 minutes.
Which one? In this
May 1st, 2024. So it's hard for me to tell what happened after December 1st, 2023. Not that we need to get into this right now, but if you can move on, please.
Okay. Okay, I'll move on. So on this is, I believe, when the support. And so this is afterwards. And so I had talked to Dr. Baker on the phone. And so we were talking about like the issue with Dr. Emery and Dr. Peskin. And so I was telling her about, you know, if she would possibly be my representative or support me in this endeavor, because she was the one who actually knew the nuances of everything that I have gone through by being in this program. And so that's why I brought up the relevance here about that. So I'll close that because I wanted to make sure that I definitely tried to get some help from people that I believe was trusted advisors. And Exhibit F is just hoop policy that kind of backs all of these things up. F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, and so this is what I received from Shannon, I'm sorry, for Dr. Moreno around the same time of the issue. So Dr. Moreno had approved me just an extra day to get the information to him. So I had to get the information to him on that Friday before 5 o'clock. He said I should have received some evidence from Shannon Bishop, and I didn't receive it until later that night after 7 p.m., which is outside of working hours. So I didn't get the supporting documents. But when I did get the supporting documents, it was later, and I'll show you that. Yeah, but when I did get the supporting documents, it was 2 days before the actual date of the preliminary. I couldn't open it or see what was actually on it. So a lot of the evidence that was presented today, that was the second time I've seen it, because when Miss Bishop sent the documents, they were readable and I can actually open them the second go round. And so this is also a transcript of a meeting with Dr. Emery and myself, where I'm explaining to her pretty much the same thing that I've been explaining time and time and time again about me switching between devices, me using my EBI. And so these are from just transcripts that from actual conversations that we've had. And so I just wanted to just clarify that I like when different things were brought up with the witnesses, like Dr. Peskin, I don't recall Dr. Peskin ever having a conversation with me about the stance of where I can actually submit anything. Also with Dr. Emery telling me that I should report it, but this is after the fact that all of these things have occurred. But I'm painting a timestamp of how the information was relayed to me, and I've been in the program since 2025, and I'm done with all my courses in 2025, and they're telling me now about the process in which I should be able to submit this information. And
Wait,
so
I'm sorry, I kind of lost you here. Which information?
like if I had any issues with staff or if I had any
Okay,
issues.
so, and there's an email sent to the entire community every year that has all of the information about that.
Oh no, I didn't. I mean, I'm sure it's in my email for sure.
Yeah, no, it's kind of, I think it's a university or policy that this email goes out every year, kind of detailing the process of what happens with the EO office.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically some of the Title IX stuff, but all of that together it is sent out yearly.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lahodi, for that. And just also within this transcript, I was mentioning to her about the articles that I did share, because I wanted to show her that there was a stark contrast to where I actually was very confused as to what I was working on, like working between my laptop, working between my iPad, in between planning funerals, in between burying, in between being on withdrawal, having withdrawal symptoms from a medication. I was facing a lot. And I do understand like some things when it comes to my citations and my research is that, I made some issues, but I also feel like taking into consideration that everything that I've had happen, that dismissal seems a bit severe when it comes to that. And so this is just the transcript just showing like how I'm pleading for that to be one of the things. And so one of the things to be considered, that, my mental health and also just me transferring between devices. And so when I was talking to Dr. Emery or Dr. Peskin about me going between devices, they were stating that they don't really understand how that happened. And so with me, one of the side effects of one of the medications that I'm on is that if I do take it, it does kind of put me in this into this mental status to where like I'm kind of sort of like navigating, unknowingly, and someone tell me like, the next morning, like, you were doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, oh, I have no recollection of that. And so within this, while I'm trying to withdraw from the medication, all of these burdens that are piling up on me has definitely allowed me to kind of sort of like have to like either break a piece of the medication or just refrain from taking it because it does cause me to be drowsy and dizzy. And I wasn't able to fully comprehend or do my work effectively on the way that I should. And so talking to Dr. Emery and Dr. Peskin, I never denied, I didn't say that I didn't take ownership. I tried to respond very quickly with everything that they've asked me. I tried sending them articles that I felt was associated with everything. And I acted in the best ability that I possibly can. And so this is regarding the Baylor issue here, which they've addressed in their presentation. And so, yeah, they already showed you this here about, walking through the process. And so the thing is with that on my LinkedIn profile, it just stated originally that, I worked in public health for over 20 plus years. And so at the time, an intern was actually working, assisting us with developing the website. And so this is actually an internal email from Baylor College of Medicine where I was actually not actually working on it. But you can see that, there were other individuals that were working on the page. I wasn't actually reviewing it, but when it was brought to my attention when it was actually done, I corrected it. So if you look at this timestamp, that was in April. The website was being worked on from April to about June or July, around when they brought this issue to me. So when I told them that the intern and the people that was working on it, all I did was told them to take the information from my LinkedIn profile and put it on there. So everyone, the intern, stated that, that they associated my work with being a doctor. But the thing is that when they brought it to my attention, I immediately addressed it and had it corrected under 24 hours. So that is one here that I wanted to talk about. And also, and this is just my LinkedIn profile, which Dr. Emery said, like, this doesn't look like me. And I can't really go over past the other parts, but I don't really utilize LinkedIn too often. And so the reason why the LinkedIn had a lot of those, because based upon my presumptive knowledge and talking to my advisor and colleagues, like I did think that I was going to be done with my courses by the end of December of 2025, which looking at my degree planner, like I am done with all my coursework for December 2025. So there are no more courses for me to take. I am at the end of my I'm at the end of the program, which I've been working with Dr. Springer to work upon this proposal writing, just to kind of sort of.
I'm going to stop you. So, and we can kind of put this whole LinkedIn thing to rest. So if you had passed your prelim examination this summer, would you have your doctorate this month?
No, I would have my doctorate.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So the things that you've seen, like originally was they showed you the Baylor profile that had the term doctor. And then my LinkedIn profile just said that I have over 20 plus years of experience. So the two would be interchangeable. So for my understanding, when talking to colleagues, I put that end date on there because I was like, I should be done with all my work, with all my classes. And so some other colleagues, we were talking about like, what it is to be candidate. So I just misinterpreted what it was for candidacy. And that's pretty much was my understanding. But after talking to Dr. Emery, I easily had it removed. And I honestly, I don't use my LinkedIn like that. And so also I've also made the proper changes to make sure that like none of that is as shown to the public, as well as making sure that it aligns with the mission of the institution. But also bringing you, go ahead.
Okay, and if we could move on to the preliminary examination, and if you could walk us through, how did you, what were you looking at to answer this question? I mean, in order to complete that theory section, this is where I'm kind of getting a bit lost. What information were you using to write up that section?
So the information, so the thing is, like, I was actually very confused when it was brought to my attention about writing that section, because I do recall writing it. But the thing is that I was working between the multiple devices, and the thing that I've been expressing is that a lot of wires just got crossed, and a lot of the things just kind of sort of, just.
Okay, I know you're saying you're working between multiple devices. So you have probably a laptop and an iPad, right? And whatever article that you're looking at that you've pulled to start with, do you have the article? And then wouldn't you email it to yourself so you could access it in more than one place so you could read the same article?
So no, the bad thing about it is that I had the articles just open on the devices, and so I've read the article. So the initial article that I thought I was reading was the Augusta article. That's the one that has a lot of the health belief model and things of that nature. But upon further looking, when Dr. Springer brought it to my attention, I was like, look like I've like pulled from different articles. So the thing is that I acknowledge that I did scramble my articles, but as far as like fabricating the data, I believe everything just got mushed up.
But did you ever find like one or two articles that actually had every single answer? I mean, because that's what I'm not really seeing, that and how many paragraphs is this first theory section? How many pages? What is the
I believe the theory pages were let me go to my preliminary exam. So this is just from the so my preliminary exam, I actually lost it whenever I have a copy of it, but my actual preliminary exam, I lost it during updating my laptop. But let me show you the preliminary exam that I do have. And so based upon this, so the thing is, like, I was writing based upon what I read with the Augusta with the Augusta article. And so my article critique was actually done at the last, because I figured like it would be the most easiest to tackle, because I've done a lot of article critiques in my other courses. And so the thing is, like, I put my article citation, last. So the thing is, like, my justification of the article, like, I'm writing, and so I'm writing based upon what I thought was from the Augusta article, which I found out afterwards. And so when I was telling Dr. Springer, like, yeah, I wrote from the Cheyenne Bola, I was telling him, like, that's the article that pretty much what I cited. But after, it was brought to my attention, I was like, yeah, I definitely failed that section, because, it's not making sense for how I did it. And so but looking at the Augusta article, a lot of these things addressing like the health belief model, and looking at how it's indicated with Black men, a lot of that comes from there. But also some of my previous writing, the thing is, I'm making sure that I'm not my previous writing. A lot of the work from my EBI table, I just, we're writing based upon what I can remember. And so the thing is, when I wrote it, I just went in and I plugged in the article citation because, ideally I'm supposed to be writing from one article citation. And so with me writing, I try to do what I can to make sure that I'm not flagged for plagiarism. And so that's how I came up with it. And so I sent them all the articles in which I felt that I got confused on, which I've sent them like articles pertaining to long. I've sent them articles pertaining to different things. And so as Dr. Emery stated, like you're supposed to only do one article, but in the way of my medical, in this medical issue is that I just simply got lost and just felt unsupported. And so a lot of this information here is based upon, how I perceived my writing at the time. So
And this is year 4 in the program for you, is that correct?
yes, year 4. I know. And so the thing is that I do acknowledge like it is a very um uh rookie mistake when it comes to how I did my preliminary exam. And the preliminary exam meant a lot to me because I've tried to take it before. And so the issue is that I put a lot of pressure up on myself, and then all the other issues that I had going on medically and physically, I think that it was just a really rough time, especially the way how I devised my EBI table to kind of support me through this process. And it didn't really give me a clean slate in which that I was working from. So as I acknowledged to Dr. Emery and Dr. Peskin multiple times, that I do acknowledge that I did get my article critique mixed up 100%. But I went through the Augusta article and I read it, and it follows the health belief model. It follows all of the things. So me sending them different articles, me just trying to justify where I could have got the information from, because I honestly was confused myself.
Okay, and are you done with your presentation?
And there is just one, I think there's just one more in this as well. I can go to it. So I want, at the end, I definitely want to also address, the preliminary exam more. And then, which I don't think these matter, but I have the obituaries for my grandmother and my uncle that shows the times in which I was actually working, to get these done. So my family is originally from Port Arthur, Texas. And so they don't have the best adequate healthcare, nor do they have the proper expenses. And I was in charge of actually burying and cremating my grandmother and my uncle financially. And so that put a lot of strain on me during the time. So my uncle passed within a certain time, but we had to hold his body until we got the money to actually go through with the process of burying him, which actually went into the time when I submitted my preliminary exam, and I didn't use my time to really go into the extra time, which I wish I would have used to really dissect and go over my work. But I was just overly stressed. And so around this time, I also lost my grandmother. And so her body also had to be held maybe 1 week before my uncle passed. And so I also had to cover those expenses financially as well. And so that put a big strain on me, because also managing the grief of losing 2 loved ones, also managing financial burdens, and also withdrawing from my medication, I wasn't in my right state of mind. And I know that, it was said that I should have asked for help regarding, seeking help from the faculty, but I didn't feel that I would have had the right support. And I also feel like reaching out to Dr. Springer, he would have acted in the capacity of administering the preliminary exam. And so I couldn't rely upon my advisor. I've tried talking to Dr. Smith. She just kind of sort of like guided me on how to possibly reach different people like the ombudsman's office, the ADA accommodation office, to kind of sort of really go into like, how can I better be supported? Because I even have messages exchanged between Dr. Smith and myself about, she's asked me countless times, is Dr. Baker supporting you? And I'm like, no, Dr. Baker isn't supporting me through any of this. I've asked Dr. Baker multiple times, like, can she support me? Because, going against Dr. Emery and going against Dr. Peskin, I just kind of.
And someone, sorry, did refer you to the ombudsman and the ADA office, right?
Yes, that was Dr. Smith. She's retired. And so I didn't know that that was a thing that I can possibly do. So Dr. Smith also was one of those individuals that was working in the place where Dr. Peskin is working in now, that understood everything that I had been going through from battling with my mom with cancer all the way to the current issue now. And so when I explained to her everything that was going on, she provided me with resources that I can do to support me through this process, because as I explained to her, that I lacked integrity within the current body with their help. And so other than Dr. Smith, my advisor would be the person that would be aware of a lot of the issues that I had going on. And so even though there is a process
And when did Dr. Smith retire?
she retired I believe the beginning of this year, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Emery can contest to that if she want, if she.
And then Dr. Smith, when you were working with her before her retirement, she'd already referred you to ADA and the ombudsman.
No, she didn't. So she did refer me to ADA whenever the first issue came up about when I was having issues in 1420 with Dr. Burnett. And so that's when I used my paper, when I was writing my paper, and I used a table, and in my writing I forgot to put adapting the table, and so Dr. Burnett flagged it as plagiarism. But when I talked to Dr.
And just when was that? About like what year?
That was my first year attending the university. So that was my first semester, and so Dr. Smith put it up that it was a learning curve. And since then, I have never had any issues until I got in Dr. Murphy's class. And if you remember, she chose to grade the first submission rather than my second submission that was in my allotted time. And I showed you both of those submissions, which happened within hours of each other.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. And so this is just showing just briefly some things that that I was sharing with Dr. Baker. And so she, I was telling her about, everything that happened, and I was asking if I can get her support. And she told me that she don't think that her support would sway or change anything of how Dr. Emery felt about me. She said that, just per our conversation, that, if Dr. Emery had any, thoughts about me, that she was just gonna, that her decision or her evidence wouldn't have reflected or helped the case. But I was trying to tell her that that it would, in fact, support a lot of these things that I'm saying, because no one really understands exactly where I'm coming from, aside from herself and Dr. Smith. And so that is just one of the issues that I had. And this is also, we were talking about this because if you notice throughout the conversation, Dr. Emery and Dr. Peskin and some others, they kept trying to say that, I've used ChatGPT or some AI software. And I'm like, I haven't used that on my preliminary paper. I made sure that I stayed within the guidelines of what was being used. Like I didn't use any ChatGPT in the realm of my paper. And so that's when, she gave me further correspondence on how to actually ensure this. And this is just me telling her, that I refuse to acknowledge that, because I didn't use ChatGPT while writing my paper. And I know that Dr. Peskin said she brought up two sources. The thing is that my EBI table, however I set it up to kind of construct it. I'm a lot of things and articles that people share with me. If I find that it's viable, I add it to my EBI table. And I know Dr. Emery said that that's bad science, but at the same time, from my learning, I find that when people share articles with me or if they share data with me, I go in and I do read the article sometimes, but sometimes I just place it for me to kind of go back and read it. And so I also use it to put it underneath the
But
different.
you don't create a PDF every time you get an article that might be helpful to
No, ma'am.
support your table?
No, ma'am, because some articles they link directly to the article, and depending on the article, you have to pay for them, or they just kind of sort of give me a preview of what I'm looking at, and then I go and I access them that way to actually go to the full article. So,
But once you get a full article, you would be able to then PDF it and
yeah, so all the time, so that's what I'm saying with managing my EBI. So not all the times would I download the PDF. I do have a section of articles where I do keep the PDF version of all the articles that I've used. And I can show you that here, where I just kind of sort of, keep track of some of the articles here. If I can't access them through other means, um not Finder. Yeah, if I can't find them through other means, I just add them to my article session. If I can close this, my screen has paused. Where is it?
And is this in the documents? Because I think we've gotten through all of to Exhibit J by now.
Yeah. And I just wanted, so the article isn't in the J, isn't in my,
Then
so
we
we can't
yeah.
use it. But yeah, I do keep articles, certain articles I do keep a track of it. But some articles, my EBI table, I follow that. And so when it comes to plagiarism, like I want to acknowledge, based upon the policies and within Hoop, but I do understand how a lot of this can come off as fabrication. But what I'm putting into my defense is that with my EBI table is that I could have used a better way of constructing everything. I did not intend, or I did not have any intentions on misleading the faculty or the staff or putting anyone through any issues regarding my exam, my preliminary exam at all, especially being this far along in my academic career. And so my ask is, to be able to I've learned from this lesson and to be able to complete my my degree formally with some restrictions of taking ethics and understanding about the work that's going beforehand. But those are all of my exhibits that I've shared.
And then Dr. Emery, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so my question relates to the second submission. So I do understand you said that you were having trouble in the first submission. The second submission was a clear month after the preliminary exam. And in that second submission, there were many articles that did not exist. And so what happened there?
So my second submission wasn't based upon getting it graded because it was already instructed to me that I wasn't going to get anything graded. When I submitted it, the thing is that I had written before upon, another type of article, but as I was doing my research, I was like, okay, so maybe I didn't build on it correctly. So when I submitted it, I found that maybe that first submission would tackle specifically what was happening in that article. So my thing was to not get a second grading, but to kind of show that I had competency that I can actually write an article critique to the best of my ability, not so much to say, oh, to grade it or to look at the citations within the error. It was just more so to say, I can write, and this is me just saying in this moment, I can submit something to you that shows that I have an understanding of a little bit of what's going on. And so, but I didn't submit it to say, oh, double check this, or, or to say, take this article into consideration, other than to say that I'm just showing you that proficiency that, I can actually understand. Because you asked me, do you actually know how to critique an article? And I was telling you, yes, I do know how to critique an article. Sometimes, like, I make mistakes like other academics, other students. And so that was just my way of making sure that I'm just showing that I have some kind of proficiency.
So when you make statements in a paper and say it's from a certain study, and yet there were no you could not provide any studies to back up that statement. We asked for the articles and specifically asked, for the list of articles to back up those statements.
And so I sent the articles based upon what you asked me for originally. And so if you can recall, based upon the evidence provided, which I didn't receive until 2 days before the 20th. So I couldn't submit any other further documentation, such as the article that I provided and got together, because I wasn't provided that time to actually collect all of that data. I mean, all of those citations that you all compiled. You said 16 and then 22. I wasn't given that time enough to do that. I was only given the time to justify the articles in which that you asked me for, and which I provided in an email to you about those articles. But if I was provided the evidence in the proper time, I could have possibly provided you the articles needed to justify that. But because I didn't receive it until 2 days before, and this was after I had already submitted my justifications and my exhibits, that's unfair to me, because that means I wasn't provided enough time to actually try to support a lot of the articles that you said you couldn't find. And so that's why I'm asking that that's why I'm asking the hearing officer and the committee to take into account that the evidence that provided to me, I wasn't provided in a timely fashion for me to actually address every concern that was provided. I was just given an overview and say, hey, just provide these things. But if I was given the proper time, I could have definitely went through and justified the articles. But what I do want to say is that within the articles that I had within my EBI table, I went through and I made sure, like you said, like if it's bad data, I went through and I made sure that anything that didn't make sense, or if it was coming up incorrect, I erased it and took it away. Because as an academic, I want to make sure that as I'm working, that everything is validated and resourced. So I use that information to just transfer like how I would progress going forward. But that's the reason why.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
Once you had the information from the school, did you ask for an extension? Did you look at the list of articles that didn't exist and ask for an extension at that period of time?
So I never received the article from Dr. Emery and Dr. Peskin.
The list, that whole list of articles they never could find, in addition to the one that you used. Okay, in addition to the one that you used for the one or two that you used for the first section, a few days before the hearing, you got all of the other information. Did you ask for an extension saying, oh no, all of these other articles exist in some way, shape, or form?
No, because Dr. Moreno was very specific about the time in which he wanted to have everything sent to him. I was on a very strict time schedule. And so he allowed me, I can show you the email. He allowed me a 1-day extension to make sure that I have all of my evidence. So Also, that wasn't even the time that I wasn't granted enough time to seek additional witnesses because I wasn't also given the evidence in a timely manner, nor was I given the evidence in a timely manner to actually refute it. So he said it was a one, he's allowing me a one-time extension to make sure that I have the information that's necessary. So I didn't go back and ask him for additional, but I just wanted to say that, you know, according to policy, that, you know, that should be taken into consideration, that I wasn't able to look at the evidence beforehand within that certain time frame and say, okay, so these are the issues that they are bringing to me. So, because I had a timeline to submit my documentation before they sent everything to me, and I couldn't go back and resend anything because he said anything sent after 5 o'clock would not be taken into consideration, which is why I also didn't send any of the articles because I didn't know that I would have to, because I didn't know what evidence was going to be provided against me.
But I did ask you for every single article in when we met. I asked you for every single article in PDF. I mean, my intention was to be able to show that these exist and that it was a valid document.
And so I sent the articles in which I had them. And so I did send them, and then you I don't believe you, I think you never verified if those were actually them, and I asked to meet with you again. And that's when you was like, well, if you don't have anything else to show me, I mean, then what's the point of us meeting? And I was like, I just wanted to talk to you about, you know, the other articles that I sent. And so within that discussion, that's how I got on the transcript about you talking about, you know, just show me the article, show me these things. And then you even went on to continuously say that, you know, legal is going to get involved. And so to me, that kind of sort of put me in a state that it was I'm not saying this is intimidation, but based upon my mental well-being, like when you're telling me that legal is going to get involved and that I have all of these things stacked against me, like that puts me in a state of panic. And so I did provide everything that I could to you in that moment, but at the same time, I do suffer with extreme anxiety and depression. And so the articles that I provided to you, I submitted based upon what you asked of me. But had I been given that full list of the evidence that you provided, I could have possibly extended more and added more to that.
But you created the document. You created the citations and the references, correct? You had all of that. Is that correct?
I did. But I also, after talking with you, I went through my EBI table and I cleaned my EBI table. So my thing is, I asked if you wanted to see my EBI table and you told me no. So beforehand, like I stated before, if I was provided with the evidence, I could have justified additional errors that you have pointed out. Because from my understanding, it was most of them have been identified. It was just other ones like 16 that was, you know, an issue.
Yeah, and we sent out the notice, the evidence on November 10th. We show that you received the evidence on November 10th.
It wasn't readable.
And did you contact us?
No, I didn't.
So I thought, okay, so you couldn't read any of it? Like
So
I couldn't read the emails. Like
Yeah,
I went through and yeah, I went through I mean, because there were just specific emails that I couldn't open. So then that's why I sent an email. I mean, if
Yeah.
you couldn't open them, you didn't think to send an email to say, I'm unable to read these?
No, so the thing is, like, I was able to read some things like you, but when it comes to certain things, I wasn't able to read them. But the thing is that in my mind, I figure like, what's the use of me saying that I can't read them? Because if I've already submitted my justification for my evidence, I couldn't go back and resend evidence to say, okay, so these are the evidence that's presented to me. Because remember, Dr. Marino set a very specific time frame to say that, you know, these are the things. So I only went based upon what I was submitting at the time to justify what I could. And so I could have went about to say, oh, I can't read this, but I also felt like based upon the policy that it was the other party's time to actually send the evidence. And I didn't know that that was a thing until Dr. Moreno said, and then Shannon, then Miss Bishop sent it to me. And then I was able to kind of sort of go through what was already had. And then when you responded that you couldn't open it, I also responded that I had some issues opening some of them, some of the documents as well. But that still doesn't take away that I wasn't able to submit anything additional to better support.
But you did have, how many days from the time that you got the evidence until you had to put, it was 2 days? Or
So it was, so when I received everything, the initial hearing was on the 20th. I got everything on the 18th when she updated everything to PDF form. So, but
no, but the first, I mean, because the stuff that was readable, of which one is this? This was the notes from the 8/26 meeting. That, how many days did you have from that with your extension? I mean, because the first day, I can't, I mean, I don't have the timeline, unfortunately, with the server being down, I can't access the time, the dates on it. But you had a couple of days to come up with the other 24 articles, it looks like.
for this hearing?
Yes.
No, ma'am. So when I received the email from Dr. Moreno, I can show you the email. And that can possibly give a better context. So when I responded to Dr. Moreno, I was like, hey, I need an extra day because I need to also make sure that I'm getting things from my doctor and making sure that I'm able to receive it. But my doctor actually kind of sort of already had a document ready for me when I reached out to him. And so I had to have everything to him by Friday.
So you had an extra day. So you did have a day of the 24 articles that you could have started to pull them. That's what I'm asking. You did have that list of the, you had, it's, I think, Exhibit 7 on their side, that you had a little bit of a time to respond to that.
Exhibit 7 is the.
Is it? Oh, okay. It's number 7 in that, the stuff that came in from, I think, Miss Bishop. It says Peskin Clayton meeting notes 8/26. And I actually, I mean, I know I downloaded them on 11/13.
And so let me get this here because I want to make sure I'm choosing the dates correctly.
And I am going to apologize that we're going to have to, I think, move fairly quickly because I don't think we have too much time left.
Okay. So yeah, Dr. Moreno sent me the email on the 10th. He said, with this email, I'm approving your request to submit all your supporting documents by Friday, November 14th. And so no later than the stated deadline of Thursday, November 13th, any documents received after 5 p.m. Friday will not be accepted. And so Ms. Bishop sent her original documentation, which was hearing. What is this hearing? Oh yeah, so that's what she's sending as far as like the witnesses. That was on the 13th, but trying to find. But I know that when I received it, it was after I submitted everything to Dr.
And I guess more importantly, you remember the meeting that you had with Dr. Peskin, where the concerns were brought up that they could not find a lot of the citations. So you were aware of that earlier.
Yes, and I sent them the citations that they said that they couldn't find. I sent them the citations, and so when I met with them again, they didn't tell me if, certain things were missing. I'm looking in the email on,
Well, I mean, but they told you there were a bunch of citations they couldn't find, right? That's my only question for you. And then we can
Yeah.
kind of move on from this.
yeah.
Just one more clarifying question. Were you aware that many of the links and citations that I asked for PDFs, and many of the links, they also went to different articles and were not correct either?
Well, you told me that you didn't want the links. That's in our
That
transcript.
I wanted the PDFs,
You wanted the
but you
PDF.
sent me screenshots and all of this stuff. They still did not validate.
No, ma'am, I didn't send you screenshots. I sent you the articles in which I collected, which is in a PDF file. I sent them all to you. I didn't send you screenshots because you didn't want screenshots. You told me that you didn't have the time to go through any of the links, that you wanted PDF of all the articles.
Okay, and at this point, I think we do need to move on to the sanction recommendations before final closing statements. The university will begin by making their recommendations.
Recommendation is for dismissal.
Okay, and Mr. Clayton, do you have a sanction recommendation?
Yes. I want to get the hoop policy. So according to everything, I would like to have a reduction in the dismissal and be allowed to finish out my program. So I know hoop policy 186 says that the only policy that authorizes sanctions against a student in a government's house sanctions may be recommended and imposed. So I'm asking the hearing officer and the body to reduce underneath circumstances and commemorate with conduct that allows me to still take accountability for my mistakes, but also allow me to finish off in my program, take ethics courses, take ethics trainings, also take in consideration a lot of my mental health. And so also think about the nature of surrounding the circumstances and whether the sanction is appropriate. I think I have done well within the course of me being a student, and I believe this preliminary exam is one example of just of me having an issue, and I'm asking for a reduction in the sanction of dismissal and just be allowed to stay within my program based upon hoop policy, as well as taking into consideration other findings.
Okay, and Dr. Emery, do you have a closing statement?
Yes. Although Mr. Clayton reported experiencing mental health challenges, and we certainly understand during the exam, he had a full month to prepare, respond, and correct his work. And nonetheless, he sent a second version that contained many falsified citations. Since the submission of his exam, he's had ample time to provide the articles, and yet he's failed to do so. Also, it's a concern that throughout the testimony that he minimizes he says that, he was confused, the references were mixed up, but there are statements in the preliminary exam that can not be supported. There's an article that was critiqued where a study does not even exist. And so to me, there's a clear lack of understanding of the egregious nature of this submission. It's not a matter of being mixed up. It's a matter of, these are things that are falsified within the preliminary exam. And so we do ask for dismissal.
And I want to just clarify that I'm not minimizing the issue. I'm just simply distinguishing between the nature of the issue, consistency with policy. Um, my thing is with Hoop 186, it requires that disciplinary determinations and sanctions are based on the specific charge, conduct of evidence, and supporting it. And I'm acknowledging that there was an issue that occurred, while accurately describing what it is, that I'm not minimizing, that I'm wanting things to be policy aligned, but also, within, different policies, no, so sanctions may be recommended or imposed. And I don't feel that I take accountability for the things that have happened, but you also have to understand like that the grading material, I was able to pass both other parts of the exam and also my other uh, given process within this program. So given the absence of intention to fabricate, I would say that I should be reduced to the part of remaining into my program, because I am in the final stretch, no matter what they may look like, as far as getting a proposal granted, getting everything corrected with setting up a committee chair, also retaking a preliminary exam. I believe that dismissal is respectfully a request of dismissal of allegation, and not taking into consideration of all of the alternatives that can happen. So I just request a relief in form of a reduction of sanctions to align with the Hoop policy of proportionality requirements, because you have Hoop policy 186 that states that authority sanctions from proportionality appeals grounds. Hoop 101 with ADA medical context that says mitigating context prohibiting on adverse inference. That should also be taken into consideration. Hoop 128 states about policy application, policies applied as written, no implied authority. And Hoop 109 is a scope of authority, so role based upon limits and not unilateral action. And so I'm just asking to stay in my program. I acknowledge my wrongdoing. I take accountability, but I am hoping that the status of everything that I've displayed to you today is not ruled against me, that I am given a chance to actually retake the preliminary exam and show that I can proficiently do what's necessary. Because I feel like dismissal is an extreme, and I feel like a lot of things have contributed to that thought. Because within the meeting, early on, Dr. Emery and Dr. Peskin said that based upon previous issues, they said that dismissal, that's how they came about dismissal. But then they went back and said, based upon the egregious issues that they are facing, specifically on a preliminary. So they're going between two different things. And I'm asking that those other issues be taken out because they're having anything to do with the preliminary. I've accepted the issues that I have faced with keeping a unhealthy EBI table, and I have taken every accountability to make sure that my EBI is clean, and that if allowed to stay in the program, that I would take every accountability to ensure that this will never happen again.
And does the university wish to present a rebuttal?
No, I think the evidence is there and has been presented.
Okay, thank you all for your participation in today's hearing. Once the hearing has concluded, I will submit my decision via email in 14 days, within 14 days. If after receiving the decision letter, either party wants to appeal, you may do so within 14 days of the date of the hearing decision email. Please refer to Section 8 of UT Health's Handbook of Operating Procedures, Policy 186 for more details. Are there any final questions about the next steps before I close the hearing today?
Yes, I have one, Dr. Lahodi. So based upon the context and how we deliver the evidence, is all of that going to be supported by policy? Like meaning like, are we the decisions are going to be like policy based? That's why I relied heavily upon acknowledging policy within the context of everything.
Any decision will be within the policies that exist. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Okay, it is now December 15th at 2 p.m. and I'm officially closing today's hearing. Please stop the recording.